The Knights of the Zodiac shine in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. The Weakling Rises. In the indoor gymnasium of Midtown High School in Queens, New York, USA, 12th grade students are doing activities. Ding-ling-ling. The bell for the end of get out of class woke up a handsome black-haired Chinese boy in the stands from his deep thoughts. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Zodiac shook his head to bring his consciousness back to reality. He didn't expect that he was just in a daze for a while and a whole day had passed. What are you thinking about? Let's go. The boy with a thin face came over and patted Zodiac on the shoulder, standing aside waiting for him to get up. Oh. Zodiac turned around, picked up his things and stood up, walking down the stands. The boy with a thin face turned around and said to Zodiac, "Hurry up, the bus will be here in 10 minutes. It will be bad if you can't catch it." As soon as the voice fell, a basketball flew from behind and hit the boy's back hard, knocking him off balance. "Parker," a teasing voice sounded from behind, "you don't do anything during physical education class. And you're always in a hurry to leave after school. It's wrong not to participate in club activities. We have to continue playing basketball. Do you want to join us?" The boy with a thin face is called Peter Parker. In his future life, he is destined to become a hero who climbs walls and shoots silk and swings on swings in the city. But now he is just an ordinary high school student. Although he is not short, he is thin and has a face that looks easy to bully. Together with the Chinese orphan Zodiac, they form the famous Bully Alliance of Midtown High School. The one who bullies them most often is the strong boy who hits him with a basketball. Eugene Thompson, nicknamed Lightning, is tall and strong, and is the absolute main force of the school basketball team and rugby team. On the other side, Thompson's team members naturally blocked Zodiac's retreat. Several people formed a circle and blocked Zodiac and Parker inside. That, Lightning, Parker was surrounded inside, but his expression was not much panic. He had seen such scenes many times. "It's not that we don't like club activities, but we have to do part-time jobs. Can you please make way? The bus is coming soon," Parker said and tried to pass through the gap between the few people. Thompson pushed Parker back with the basketball. He raised his chin and said impatiently, "Parker, you can do part-time jobs anytime. But do you really plan to not participate in any club activities during your stay at school? We don't have much time left in our high school life." Although Thompson's words seemed to be intended to have a deep exchange with Parker about the relationship between classmates, even a blind person could hear the meaning of his words. This person is obviously looking for trouble. The students of Central City High School have seen a lot of such things. As long as it doesn't concern them, few people will kindly stand up. "I think we need to do it another day. You know, we have something important to do today, so it may not be appropriate." Parker forced an explanation and gritted his teeth to rush out. Thompson laughed evilly, grabbed the basketball and slammed it into Parker's face. A tragedy was about to happen. With a whoosh, Parker rushed out of the encirclement without any hindrance. After he stopped, he looked at himself in surprise, not understanding why he suddenly became so strong. Looking back, Parker saw Thompson with his hands raised in the air, with an embarrassed expression on his face as if he had eaten too much shit. In the middle of the encirclement, Zodiac held a basketball on his index finger, and the basketball was spinning very fast but there was no sign of it falling. Oh! There were surprised low shouts around, and everyone was stunned by the situation in front of them. Is this still the Chinese boy who dared not say a word when being bullied? Zodiac is indeed not the Chinese boy who was bullied before. It has been less than 24 hours since he came to this world from Earth, but starting from last night, his life will take a completely different path from the previous two halves of his life. "You want us to participate in club activities, right? Okay." Zodiac held the basketball up right in front of his eyes, stretched out his hand and patted it gently. And the basketball, which had slowed down, spun very fast again. "If you want to fight, you should all come together. One ball will decide the winner. We are in a hurry." Thompson was a little slow to react. His consciousness still lingered in the trance of the basketball being snatched away for no reason. But in a moment, Thompson was angry. He was the main player of the school team and the star on the basketball court. Now this Chinese kid dared to challenge his basketball. It was simply humiliating himself. Is Zodiac going to commit suicide? Oh no, oh no, Thompson is going to get mad. Lightning, go, kill him. The students watching unconsciously got excited. All of them were watching the excitement and didn't mind the big things. Parker stood next to Zodiac and asked in surprise, "Are you crazy?" "Just watch." Zodiac loosened her fingers and spread her palms to catch the falling basketball. After a while, the two stood near the center circle, with Thompson holding the ball. The basketball hit the ground hard, and Thompson couldn't even look at the basket in the distance. He didn't care where the basket was. He wanted to crush Zodiac with his body. Just like the little Emperor James used his body to resist all obstacles on the court, and made an unreasonable 5-step layup, which made you lose your temper. "Here I come." Bang, bang. Thompson patted the basketball and started to move. Before he reached Zodiac, he hugged the basketball with both hands and made a 5-step layup. Start. Whoosh. Thompson broke through Zodiac's defense like a broken bamboo. Sure enough, this skinny Chinese boy didn't even have the courage to stop me. Taking the 5th step and about to jump, Thompson suddenly felt something was wrong. He looked down at his empty hands. Where was the ball? Stopping and looking back, the basketball was spinning on the skinny fingers, and behind him was Zodiac's face that deserved a beating. "What happened just now?" "Don't ask me. I just opened the elevator." That kid must have taken drugs. There was a lot of discussion around him, and Thompson felt that every word was slapped on his face. "I thought you would find the ball missing only after you fly up." Zodiac put down the basketball and said, "Stand still, it's my turn." Before Thompson could say anything, Zodiac had already started charging while slapping the basketball. After stepping into the free throw line, Zodiac grabbed the basketball with one hand and flew up. Seeing his action, everyone had an idea in their mind. This guy is really crazy. Regardless of whether Zodiac is crazy or not, Thompson would not allow such a thing to happen. "Shit, I'll give you a real uncle Mew slap fly, so that you know that your uncle will always be your uncle." Zodiac had already flown close, and Thompson didn't even think about it, and jumped up with his hands raised high. Bang! The two bodies collided in the air, and Thompson groaned, thinking that it was not good. Zodiac raised the ball too high, and he couldn't reach it. Although Zodiac was at a disadvantage in weight, he had speed, and he even knocked Thompson backwards with the momentum. Although Thompson failed to block the basketball, he successfully slowed down Zodiac's momentum. It seemed impossible for him to dunk. In a flash, Zodiac pressed down Thompson's head, and used the force of his body to rise one more level. At the same time, he flew over Thompson's head. Bang! The basketball hit the basket hard, and the whole backboard was shaking. The huge sound made the whole basketball hall silent. Thompson was unstable after landing, and fell on his buttocks. Looking up, he saw Zodiac hanging on the basket with one arm. The smile on Zodiac's face was so bright and ironic. A one-step jump from the free throw line and a tomahawk-style dunk. Even in the NBA, few people can do such a move, let alone a Chinese who is just over 1.8 meters tall and thin. "I have become stronger." Zodiac, who was hanging on the basket, felt infinitely proud. "I came to the Marvel world for no reason, but I don't have the system cheat. So what? Even if I am not a millionaire, have no talent, and cannot mutate, I can still make a name for myself in this world, because I will become a Saint Seiya." The new book Seedling has been signed. Please support it, encourage it. The more collections and recommendations, the better. I kneel down to all ebook friends. Thank you God's grace 810 for the reward. I worked until 2 o'clock last night. My brain was about to explode, but I was not very satisfied with what I wrote. Now I officially start a new story, and try to ensure 2 updates a day. I hope everyone will support me. Chapter 2. A box. Sitting on the moving bus, Parker scratched his head and twisted his body, causing Zodiac to have goosebumps. "Do you have hemorrhoids on your butt?" Seeing Parker's hesitant look, Zodiac couldn't help but tease. Parker scratched his messy hair, frowning as if he hadn't gotten over the shock before. Did you just dunk over lightning?" "Yes," Lizzie nodded. This was an undeniable fact. After all, the whole class saw him pretending to be cool. "But why could you dunk over lightning?" Parker was puzzled. "Let's not talk about skills first. With your physical fitness, you can't even compare to me, let alone lightning, who is as strong as a bull." It's normal for Parker to have doubts. Anyone who goes from the weakling to a warrior who defeats the school bully in one night would be unacceptable for a while. "Give me a little more time, not to mention the main force of the school team, even if it's Captain America. I'll dunk over you." Lizzie didn't say this, for fear that if he said the flag too early, he would die too ugly. He leaned close to Parker's ear and whispered, "I can tell you, but you must not tell anyone else." "Yes." Parker nodded solemnly. Lizzie coughed lightly and said mysteriously, "On my way home last night, I met an old beggar, who stopped me and said that I had amazing bones and was a one-in-a-million martial arts genius, and that the maintenance of world peace depended on me." Parker glared at Lizzie like he was an idiot. "And you believed it?" Lizzie nodded. "Yeah, haha." Parker squinted his eyes with contempt. "Did the old beggar you mentioned try to sell you a martial arts secret book, the 9 Yin, 9 Yang, Great Shift of the Universe, and the Tantric Thunder Secret, all for 10 yuan a copy?" Lizzie opened his eyes wide with excitement. "You met him too?" "I haven't seen the Tantric Thunder Secret. Have you bought it?" "Lend it to me so I can study." "Get lost." Parker rolled his eyes. "Do you think I haven't read Kung Fu? That old beggar is just a liar. How could the real secret book only cost 10 yuan a copy?" "Well, the angle you are focusing on is very tricky." Lizzie shrugged. "Okay, then how much do you think the real secret book costs?" "It must be thousands." "Don't try to change the subject." Parker pushed Lizzie and sat down helplessly. "Forget it. If you don't want to talk about it, I won't ask." "I hope you didn't use any medicine that is bad for your body. Even the super soldier serum may have side effects." "I don't want you to become like the Red Skull, who is neither human nor ghost." The Red Skull is a villain in the comics adapted from the deeds of Captain America, a hero in World War II. In a certain version, he was injected with an unfinished experimental serum, which resulted in his face being deformed and distorted. Captain America is the only superhero officially announced in this world so far. There are many stories, derivatives and adapted comics about him. He is an idol of many teenagers, including Parker and Lizzie before. Lizzie knew that Parker was concerned about her, so she comforted him. "Don't worry, it's different from Red Skull and Captain's method, and mine will definitely not have any side effects." "I hope so." Parker nodded and stopped talking, until they were about to get off the car, when he suddenly asked, "Is it really a secret book?" Lizzie shrugged and spread his hands. "Guess." After getting off the car, the two came to a fast food restaurant with a capital M painted on it. Their part-time job was working in this big. Because Parker lived with his uncle, he was often embarrassed to ask his uncle for money when he needed it, so he worked here to earn pocket money. Lizzie worked here because of the orphanage where he grew up. There are about 20 children in the Children of the Stars orphanage. The youngest is only 7 years old, and the oldest is Lizzie, 17 years old. Director Joan is nearly 60 years old this year. She has invested all her savings in this orphanage, but it is not enough to support so many children. Before, she had been receiving funding from the church and society. However, in recent years, due to social economic problems, the efforts of enterprises to do charity have become less, and the funding has also begun to decrease, so that the life of the orphanage has become difficult. As the oldest brother, Lizzie naturally took on the task of working to earn money to reduce the burden on Grandma Joan. Although the salary of working part-time at Bing is not high, Lizzie couldn't find a more suitable job before. Coincidentally, his friend Parker was also there, so they worked together. As night fell, before 8 o'clock, Lizzie and Parker left work together. The night in the United States was not peaceful, and it was not safe to leave late. Before leaving, Parker stuffed most of his salary into Lizzie's hand, leaving only a $5 bill, and then said casually, "Here, Keep an account as usual. You said that you would pay me back with interest when you have money in the future. I am saving and withdrawing in batches, which is much more convenient than depositing in the bank. Parker knew Lazia's difficulties a long time ago, and said this just because he didn't want to embarrass him. Holding a few crumpled banknotes, Lazia felt inexplicably touched. Li Bei said, "Knowing each other in times of trouble, only when you are down and out, you will know who your true friend is." The Parker in front of him is not tall, handsome, or even a little ugly, but Lazia felt warm in his heart. No wonder Parker can become Spider-Man and is loved by so many people. Helping others has penetrated into every bit of his life. New York's good neighbor is not in vain. After returning to the orphanage, Lazia saw that there was no Joan in the hall, so she quietly walked back to her room. Due to public security issues, Joan did not allow the children to come home late. If she was caught, she would inevitably nag again. Back in her room, after Lazia put down her things, she locked the door and dragged out a bronze box from under the bed. The box was very old. According to Joan's grandmother, it was picked up by Lazia when he was a child. Although she didn't know what was in it and had never opened it, Lazia kept it as a treasure. When Lazia first crossed over to this world yesterday, he was completely confused. He was in a foreign country, and his background and personality were all overturned and rebuilt. This development made him a little difficult to accept for a while. When he learned from newspapers and the internet that there was a slick arms dealer named Tony Stark in this world, and there was a World War II hero named Steve Rogers 70 years ago, he burst into tears. The long-awaited crossing event happened happily, and it was the Marvel world he had longed for, which was really gratifying. But he searched his body and found the system's supernatural Goldfinger. How could he, an orphan and immortal without mutant abilities, survive? Until he accidentally found the bronze box under the bed and confirmed that it was actually a real holy cloth box with a sleeping holy cloth lying inside. Lazia finally felt at ease. It seems that he is going to find a way to become a Saint Seiya in the Marvel world. This development is good and worth it. Thank you all for your encouragement. Please continue to support and encourage me by collecting and recommending. Thank you. 201702131743399425 for the reward. Thank you Niner for the 500 reward. Chapter 3, Memory of the Holy Cloth. The United States and the Marvel world is like Japan in Japanese comics. If there is no terrorist attack or alien invasion every day, it is not considered a serious day. For ordinary people, the Marvel world is a world full of crises and fears. The lives of ordinary people are always on the verge of danger, especially for the relatives of superheroes. Shootings, explosions, nuclear radiation. There is always one that can take your life. Even if you sit quietly at home, you may be beaten to ashes by a snap of a purple potato head. But for superheroes with special abilities, this is an ideal stage to display their ambitions, show their personality and realize the value of life. The moment Lazia touched the holy clothes, he stepped into the threshold of superheroes. The holy clothes are not dead objects, they are alive. The holy clothes can not only resonate with the holy clothes, but also communicate with the saints. And some saints, because of their special abilities, such as Shin, can even read the memories of the owner of the holy clothes before they touched the holy clothes. Although there is no symbol pattern representing the constellation in the middle of the simple pattern on this holy clothes box, it looks like a 3-no product, and it is impossible to tell what constellation the holy clothes box is. But for some reason, the moment he touched the holy clothes box, Lazia opened the ability to communicate with the holy clothes, and read a complete set of cultivation systems about the microcosm from this holy clothes box. The microcosm is the original power that has existed in everything since the Big Bang. The Saint Seiya who explodes the microcosm can destroy objects at the atomic level and cause terrible destructive power. Their fists can tear the sky apart and their feet can crush the earth. Of course, the premise of all this is to be able to comprehend the microcosm. The first step to comprehend the microcosm is to comprehend the sixth sense in addition to the 5 senses of vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. The sixth sense is also called consciousness, which is a spiritual feeling. People who comprehend the sixth sense will be able to open powerful superpowers, such as the creation and control of ice by Hyogo, Ikki's mental attack, etc. After comprehending the sixth sense, the Saint Seiya can also gain power beyond the limit of the human body, speed beyond the speed of sound, a physique to resist extreme environments, and a powerful defense that is immune to most physical attacks. What's more, no matter how many injuries they suffer, as long as their consciousness remains, their microcosm will not be extinguished, and the Saint Seiya can continue to fight. This is basically a bug. The sixth sense is just a starting point. Above the sixth sense, there is the seventh sense that can exceed the speed of light, the eighth sense that can allow people to enter the underworld alive, and the ninth sense that is said to have the closest power to gods. Every time the microcosm comprehends a higher level of sense, the strength will increase exponentially. In the end, I am afraid that the entire Marvel universe will not be enough to fight. Of course, it is too early to say that. Lazai is just an ordinary person who is not even qualified to comprehend the sixth sense. He who wears the crown must bear its weight. If you want to open the sixth sense of the microcosm, you must first have a body that can withstand the power of the microcosm. Otherwise, when you punch out, your body will be broken by the power before the enemy is hurt. In the original world, in order to become a Saint Seiya, trainees must go through hellish training. Only after breaking through the limits of the human body can they comprehend the microcosm. In the real world, Lazai does not need to use the Spartan mode of the sanctuary to train himself. He only needs to sit on the Saint's armor box. The 3-no Saint's armor box is very domineering. It contains a small universe like a training master. This small universe will automatically instill fighting memories into Lazai's consciousness and constantly stimulate and strengthen his body. This operation is simple and easy to use. It is simply a heaven-level training mode designed specifically for lazy people. However, if you think that you can become bald and strong by sitting on the Saint's armor box and being a lazy man, you are wrong. The stimulation of the Saint's armor box's small universe on Lazai's body can make his body strengthen more than 10 times faster than the normal growth rate of Saint Seiya trainees, but at the same time, the pain he endures is more than 10 times stronger than that of the trainees. The pain intensity is magnified tenfold, and even a mosquito bite feels like being scratched by a knife. A punch in the stomach can hurt like giving birth to a child on the spot. When Lazai sat on the vestment box, he felt like a needle was pierced into every pore of his body. After crying loudly, he felt like his whole body was covered with sunflowers, and the sunflower seeds were taken out of him. What kind of heaven-level lazy man's leveling method is this? This is simply a hell mode designed for extreme masochists. However, even so, Lazai had no choice. He did not have so much time and energy to let his body slowly reach the peak of the human body through scientific and reasonable exercise. If he wanted to quickly reach the physical conditions required to comprehend the microcosm, he could only grit his teeth and experience the unbearable pain. When God wants to give a great task to a man, he must first make him suffer. Work hard. Sitting on the vestment box, Lazai recited a passage from Mencius like a ghost crying and a wolf howling. In less than 10 minutes, he fell off the vestment box exhausted. His clothes were already soaked with sweat, his lips were bitten, and blood flowed out of his mouth. Fortunately, he kept the bottom line and did not bleed. Although the process was inexplicably painful, the results were remarkable. Perhaps because of his weak body, his physical fitness improved very quickly at the beginning of training. When he trained in this way for the first time yesterday, although he only lasted less than 5 minutes and embarrassed all the male compatriots present, he gained the strength to fight Thompson, and in the 10 minutes today, he felt that his physical fitness had increased dramatically again. If he and Thompson were to repeat today's scene again, he believed that it would definitely not be as simple as dunking. He could knock Thompson off the ground. Unfortunately, it took 10 minutes today to achieve the same effect as yesterday's 5 minutes. It might take 20 minutes next time. Thinking of the 20 minutes of inhumane physical torture, Lazai couldn't help crying. Sooner or later, he would die on this box. After lying on the ground for 10 minutes, Lazai finally recovered a little. He forced himself to climb onto the holy clothes box with his body about to explode in pain, crossed his legs again, and began to warm his body according to another method in the Holy Clothes memory. That was a set of Qi training methods inherited from the Libra Gold Saint Dako teacher of the Five Elders Peak of Lushan Mountain, Senyuo Wangxiang. There is natural energy between all things in the world. The all-seeing is to use the human body as a container, by absorbing the natural energy into the body and refining and absorbing it. The purpose of strengthening oneself can be achieved. Another direct benefit of natural energy entering the body is that it can warm injured cells and repair body damage. If there is no such method of refining energy, Lizia's previous crazy self-abuse behavior is tantamount to chronic suicide. It seems that after breaking and then standing up, the cells have been strengthened in some way after breaking and repairing. This made Lizia more determined to continue on the path of self-abuse. The all-seeing comes from the Pluto mythology LC Dako Gaiden, which forcibly explains the origin of the back patterns on Dako and Shira's backs. Thank you Yezixi for the 2000 reward. I won't say anything else, and I will update more. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 4, Good Man Lao Li. As he continued to absorb the natural energy, the pain in Lizia's body slowly faded away. Click. The door was opened, and a 7-year-old Chinese girl with big eyes and a round face came in carefully with a large bowl. The little girl's name was Clarice. She and Lizia were the only two Chinese children in the orphanage. Although they were the biggest age difference, they had the best relationship, just like siblings. Brother, drink the soup. The bowl was filled with bone soup, with a few Chinese herbs added, and the aroma was fragrant. This was the prescription that Grandma Joan asked an old Chinese doctor for advice in Chinatown. It was said that it could supplement calcium for children. However, the main nutrients in bone soup are protein and fat, and the calcium content is pitifully low. If you want to supplement calcium with bone soup, you have to drink at least hundreds of bowls a day. Before supplementing calcium, you need to have a strong kidney. Although it can't supplement calcium, the bone soup cooked by Grandma Joan still tastes very good, so Lizia is not opposed to it. Sitting on the vestry without moving, Lizia took the bone soup with just the right temperature. Thank you. Have you had it? Yes, Clarice grinned. Brother, I lost another tooth. Slurp. Lizia raised her head. Haha, let me see. It looks so good even with 2 missing front teeth. Clarice smiled innocently. By the way, brother, can you help me throw the tooth onto the roof? Grandma Joan said that throwing teeth onto the roof can make you taller. Lizia was happy. Do Americans believe this? Who told Grandma Joan that? It couldn't be Lao Wang who gets medicine in Chinatown. Clarice shook her head. I don't know. Grandma told you to go over there later. She seems to have something to talk to you about. Nodding, Lizia pointed to the cow paper bag with a picture of a big girl on the table. Take the things in the bag and share them with your brothers and sisters. Put the money under the bag in Grandma Joan's closet. The children in the orphanage work to earn some pocket money when they grow up. Joan doesn't object, but she doesn't want everyone to use this hard-earned money to subsidize the orphanage. In order not to embarrass Grandma Joan, Lizia would ask Clarice to quietly put the money in the closet where Joan kept her change every time she came back from work. After giving instructions, Lizia stood up and went to the study. On the rattan chair in front of the bookshelf sat a peaceful old man. You're back? Seeing Lizia coming in, Grandma Joan raised her head and frowned. Lizia smiled and turned behind Joan, rubbing her shoulders. Grandma, it's so late and you're still not asleep. Who are you sulking with? Tell me and I'll teach him a lesson for you. Kainan took Lizia's hand and pulled him in front of her, sternly scolding her. Don't interrupt me, little bastard. Don't think I don't know that you secretly put money in your closet. Lizia knelt in front of Kainan. Grandma, you are very observant. Nothing can escape your eyes. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would worry. HMPH. Kainan rolled her eyes at Lizia, then sighed helplessly. It's Grandma's fault that you have to suffer. Grandma, you have done a good job. If it weren't for you, we might have starved to death in the garbage dump. Lizia patted Kainan's hand and comforted her. The orphanage is like this now. As the children's big brother, I should help you share some of the burden. I can't let you worry alone. Grandma. Kainan looked at Lizia with some concern. You have grown up and know how to help Grandma. Grandma is very relieved. But you are still young after all. If you come back so late at night, what if something happens? What will I do in the future? As the old lady spoke, her eyes were unconsciously filled with tears. She really couldn't hold on any longer. Her savings and sponsorship were almost used up. Maybe one day the orphanage would not have food to eat. If it really doesn't work, she can only make a request to the society, hoping that capable families will adopt the children in the orphanage. Although Joan was very reluctant, these children in the orphanage were like her own grandchildren, but she really had no other choice. Don't worry, Grandma, we will definitely get better, and you don't have to worry about me. In fact, I am very powerful, but I just haven't told you. Zodiac comforted softly. Joan slapped him in the face and scolded him with a smile. You brag, kid. I don't know you. Zodiac chuckled. Grandma, you don't know this. I'm not bragging. I might be able to save the world in the future. You're not bragging. Even Stephen doesn't dare to say that he can save the world, let alone you. Captain America Stephen Rogers is a hero of World War II. His story has been passed down for nearly 70 years and has influenced countless generations. Grandma Joan also grew up listening to the captain's story. By the way, Joan said for a while, and then she remembered something. Write a letter for me later. I heard that there is a big company that seems to be doing charity. I have a mailbox here. Write a letter to them and see if you can get some help. Zodiac wanted to say that he was different from before and could change the current situation of the orphanage through hard work, but he swallowed the words back when they came to his lips. He didn't have the heart to dampen the enthusiasm of an old man to help orphans. Okay, I'll write it, but then again, who would use a name like Shit Big Granule as a company name? It can't be Stark Industries. Isn't Tony Stark often teased as a Shit Big Granule? Joan shrugged. How do I know that? It was Mr. Lee from FedEx who told me. He knows the executives there, so he should be right. Uncle Lee said that? Okay, then I know. Uncle Lee's surname is naturally Lee, which sounds like a Chinese, but he is actually a real white old man. Uncle Lee is a person who can't sit still. Although he is over 60 years old, he can't sit still. It seems that you can see him everywhere. Zodiac has met Uncle Lee and was impressed because he looks very much like Mr. Stan Lee, the creator of this world. It can be regarded as a tribute. Marvel is incomplete without Uncle Lee. Zodiac is very relieved to be able to meet Uncle Lee in this world. After Zodiac finished writing the letter, he directly changed the word Shit Big Granule, stank, after it to Stark, according to the email address given by Uncle Lee, and clicked send. After checking the information, Grandma Joan was a little confused about Zodiac's changes. That's not what Lao Lee told me. How about I call and ask him? I wonder if he's asleep. Zodiac pouted. You know nothing about Uncle Lee. You think Uncle Lee is asleep, but maybe he's still in the nightclub working as a DJ for naked strippers. Grandma, don't worry. I checked online. There's no Shit Big. There's only this Stark. Uncle Lee must have remembered it wrong. Thank you for the 1000 reward. Thank you 810 for the reward. Thank you for the reward. Thank you all for your recommendations and encouragement. I am flattered by you. Chapter 5, Fighting Against Injustice. Coming out of the study, Zodiac climbed up to the roof of the orphanage alone. When he couldn't sleep after watching Wulan Wei's Yuan, he thought about going to the roof. He looked up at the stars in the sky. The stars in the sky were clustered together, and these clusters formed constellations. For other people in this world, these constellations represent galaxies, which are far away and unknown. People speculate that there may be aliens in the galaxies. Although these aliens have actually visited the Earth a long time ago, most people are not aware of it. For Zodiac, who is about to become a Saint Seiya, these constellations will be the amplifiers of his power. The power of the Saint Seiya comes from his own microcosm, but each Saint Seiya has a guardian constellation. The Saint Seiya's microcosm will communicate with the guardian constellation and draw strength from the constellation, constantly strengthening the realm of the microcosm and improving his own strength. Therefore, the guardian constellation is very important to the Saint Seiya, and it determines the upper limit of the energy of this microcosm. There are a total of 88 constellations in the sky, and the corresponding Saint Seiya is also 88. The strongest ones are naturally the 12 constellations near the Zodiac, corresponding to the 12 gold saints, followed by the 24 silver saints and the 48 bronze saints. There are 4 more constellations whose saints are said to have not been edited by the original author Kurumada. Liza doesn't know which constellation she corresponds to. If she can choose, of course it would be best to choose the 12 constellations of the Zodiac. The golden saint cloth is shining, the white cape is flying, holding the helmet and letting the hair be blown into waves by the wind, standing under the fire clock of the sanctuary at a 45-degree angle and looking up at the starry sky, with a melancholy as blue as the Mediterranean in her eyes, and the background music is matched with the theme song of the 12 constellations of Pluto, Globe, which is absolutely handsome. If it's not gold, silver is also fine. The altar seat, the giant seat, and the Perseus seat are all acceptable. The Ophiuchus constellation that may evolve is better. The shape of the gold Ophiuchus saint cloth is simply sassy. But don't be a crane. It looks cool to wear ye's unbuttoned low-waisted shorts, but it's too embarrassing and eye-catching for a man to wear them. But looking at the color and material of the armor box, most of the armor inside should be bronze armor. Bronze armor is bronze armor. After all, it's better than nothing. Although the defense is a little worse, everyone will be handsome after evolving into a divine armor. Liza was so beautiful that she almost blew snot bubbles when she imagined wearing a divine armor and pretending to be cool in front of the Avengers. Dad, Dad, Dad. The sound of hurried footsteps sounded in the alley downstairs. Liza came to her senses and looked in the direction of the footsteps. She saw a figure running forward in a panic in the alley under her feet. Not long after the figure ran away, there was a messy sound of footsteps behind him, and 2 people who were obviously much taller chased out from the darkness. This bitch is really good at running. Hurry up. Don't let her get away. Liza frowned as she watched the 2 people run by quickly. The security in the United States at night has always been a problem that has been criticized. The situation is even more serious in Queens, where most of the poor live. Because of the rampant guns and chaotic security, the day and night of this city are completely 2 different worlds. Queens at night is a paradise for gangs, theft, drugs, robbery, rape, kidnapping, murder. There is nothing they dare not do except what you can't think of. Every time Liza goes to work, she will rush back to the orphanage before 8 o'clock. If she is later, it will not be safe. Now it is close to midnight, which is when criminals are most rampant. The 3 people who just ran past under his nose are likely to be a criminal activity. 2 big men chasing a little old woman at night. Is it a game? No matter how playful they are, they will never play on the street again. In the past, Liza would definitely hide from a distance when encountering such a thing. If she didn't have the ability to save people, she would just honestly call the police from a distance. Criminals in the United States all have guns. It is glorious to rush forward and become a martyr without being able to help. But Liza is different now. The small universe on the Holy Clothes box not only instills the Saint Seiya training system into Liza, but also subtly instills the Saint Seiya's creed and philosophy into him. Protect the love and justice on earth. While gaining the ability of the Saint Seiya, you must also shoulder the mission of the Saint Seiya. This is a compulsory question that cannot be violated. Liza has not yet completely become a real Saint Seiya. He will not blindly challenge an enemy that he cannot defeat, and of course he will not sit idly by and watch the evil happening in front of him. After making sure that no one was following him, Liza stood up, climbed over the wall and left the orphanage, and chased after the few people. In the dim alley, the panicked woman finally got into a dead end. It was too late to change a road. The 2 men chasing her had already blocked the entrance of the alley. Where can you run to? You bitch. The 2 men, one tall and one short, panted and chased to the entrance of the alley. Seeing that it was a dead end and the woman had no way to escape, they smiled triumphantly on their tired faces. $1,000 is in hand. The tall man took out a butterfly knife, and the blade reflected the dim light at the street corner, frightening the woman's legs. First, "Sir, no, please, don't hurt me." The woman was tired and scared, and her legs had no strength to support herself. She slid slowly to the ground along the wall. "Don't worry, we won't hurt you," The tall man slowly stepped forward with the knife, laughing. "You are worth $1,000. How can I bear to hurt you?" Walking to the woman, the tall man slowly leaned down and gestured with the blade next to her face. "Madam, I advise you to be obedient and don't resist, so that you can suffer less physical pain." He, waving his hand behind him, the tall man shouted, "David, come here quickly and take this back. We can call it a day tonight." Bang! There was a muffled sound behind him, and the tall man turned his head suddenly. The tip of the knife in his hand accidentally broke the woman's skin, causing a shrill scream. The sudden scream scared the tall man. But what made him even more angry was what happened behind him. The short David had already fallen to the ground. Behind him stood a thin figure, holding a bloody brick in his hand. "Shit, you are looking for death." The tall man was angry at the sight. The other party covered his face. Since he didn't dare to show his face, he couldn't be a policeman. He was either a small scoundrel who wanted to steal business, or a fool who wanted to be a hero with shit in his head. No matter which one it was, the tall man would not let the other party have an easy time. He wanted to let him see the power of the Russian mafia. As soon as the two of them started fighting, the tall guy realized from his opponent's unfamiliar movements and consciousness that this guy was a novice in fighting, and he didn't know where he learned some basic skills. The tall guy had seen many people like this, and most of them died. Liziah dodged two knives in a hurry, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart that it was indeed easier said than done. If he wanted to turn the combat experience instilled in his brain by the small universe of the Holy Suitcase into his own combat consciousness, he still had a long way to go. Thank you for your support and encouragement. Don't stop. Chapter 6, Chivalrous and Righteous. After Liziah followed the men from a distance to the alley, he soon understood the cause of the incident. This was obviously a forced kidnapping, and from what the two said, it could be heard that they were obviously specialized in kidnapping, and they had done it countless times. To them, the kidnapped women were not human beings, but goods worth $1,000 each. Life was so cheap. As for where they would be sold to, and what kind of miserable life they would lead after being sold, who cares? These people were just like those people in China who trafficked women and children. They disregarded the law for their own selfish interests, and did not care how many people and families their actions would bring indelible pain for their entire lives. Such people should go to hell. So from the beginning, Liziah was ready to kill them. Although they might not necessarily take their lives, they would at least make them unable to take care of themselves. Even if such people were sent to prison for a few days, they would still be a disaster when they came out. Bang! The brick hit the short man's head hard, and Liziah seemed to hear the sound of bones cracking. This was because he controlled the strength. Otherwise, the short man's head would be a rotten watermelon. Even so, this blow to the back of the head, Liziah estimated that even if the short man did not become demented, he would not be much better for the rest of his life. After knocking down the short man, Liziah did not feel the discomfort after beating and killing someone for the first time in literary works, but instead had a faint sense of accomplishment. This may be the effect of the small universe of the Holy Suitcase on his mind. Punishing evil makes him happy. When the tall man rushed up with a knife, Liziah immediately wanted to go up and fight hard. He thought to himself that with his current hands, it would be easy to deal with a kidnapper. But once he took over, he realized that some things were not as simple as he imagined. He could see the attack path of the tall man and predict his next move, but he had to think about how to dodge and counterattack. When he figured it out, the attack was already in front of him. He could dodge it, but it was impossible to counterattack. The tall man beat Liziah and made him retreat step by step. He felt so proud. He hadn't had such a good fight for a long time since he was shot in the knee. Haha. Boy, no matter you are Irish or Mexican, you dare to come to our mafia's base to cause trouble. Let your uncle Sergeyevsky teach you the rules of our Russian mafia. The underground forces in this area are under the control of the Russian mafia, but the nearby Irish gangster families and Mexican drug cartels often covet it and often come here to cause trouble. Liziah has never heard of the Irish, Mexicans and Russian mafia, and he knows a little about the Italian mafia of Angola family. Whether it is the Russian mafia or the Red Hair Party, since they dare to kidnap, extort and force good women into prostitution, Lizaya does not mind defeating them and supporting the spiritual civilization construction of the United States. After adapting to the opponent's attack rhythm, Lizaya finally stopped being so flustered, and tried to combine the actual practice to experiment with the fighting skills he learned. Now his mind is full of fighting skills, but he has no way to use them flexibly, and he needs a sparring partner to help him digest them well. After predicting a move of Sergeyevsky, Lizaya flexibly dodged in advance, and then punched the opponent's chin. Bang! Sergeyevsky flew out, and he didn't even last a single move. This Sergeyevsky is useless except for his long name. He has a strong body of a fighting nation, but he didn't expect that he is so weak. Lizaya just tried a counterattack, and he knocked his feet off the ground and fell to the ground with a plop for a long time without getting up. Am I so strong? Lizaya looked at his fist, pleasantly surprised. The Saint Seiya's fighting skills were indeed as powerful as their reputation. Puff. Sergeyevsky spat out a mouthful of blood, lying on the ground and shouting unwillingly, "Who are you?" This question made Lizaya fall into deep thought. It can be foreseen that after today, he will never be afraid to move forward on the road of chivalry and justice, but will go further and further. It's not that the heart of a saint is overflowing, but the implementation of the faith of the Saint Seiya. Then the problem comes, since he has to come out to cause trouble frequently, his real name must not be told. No one except Iron Man will do this. Then he should design a special name and logo for himself, which should be different from other superheroes and show the will to eliminate evil. The existence of names and logos is not only to be cool and distinguish characters, but also a warning to criminals. The name of the Saint Seiya who protects love and justice on earth is very fulfilling, but it would be too shameful if he shouted it all day. Lizaya's mind turned, and suddenly he thought of a name. In Egyptian mythology, there is a sacred bird. It is the soul of the sun god Ra and the guide of the gods who leads the souls of the dead to the underworld. This bird is called Bennu. Lizaya nodded with satisfaction. I am the glow of Bennu, responsible for leading the souls of you sinful people to the underworld. Lizaya came close to the tall man and showed a wicked smile. I am the soul of the sun god, the black fire wandering in the midnight. No matter how evil it is, it will be burned to ashes in front of me. Are you ready to go to hell and atone for your sins? Lizaya's second-rate tone and evil smile obviously frightened the tall man. He wanted to get up and run away, but his limbs had no strength at all. Seeing this, Lizaya did not hesitate, raised his foot and stepped on the tall man's knee. Crack! The knee that had been hit by the arrow could not escape the fate of being broken after all, and the entire joint was bent in the opposite direction. The broken bone instantly pierced the muscle and came out hideously. After both knees were crushed into pieces, Lizaya was satisfied and stopped, but the tall man on the ground had already fainted from the pain. Looking up at the woman who was still curled up in the corner not far away, Lizaya shouted, "Madam, you are safe and can go home. If you walk at night again next time, I wish you a pleasant trip." Thank you, Mr. Huiyu." The woman stood up tremblingly, but huddled in the corner and did not dare to move. She was scared by the way Lizaya stepped on her knees just now. Waving to the woman indifferently, Lizaya retreated into the dark shadows and disappeared. After a night, the name of Bennu Bird Huiyu began to spread among the people. Your support and encouragement are the motivation for me to write. Please don't be stingy with collections and recommendations. Give me a slap on the face. Thank you. Chapter 7 Classmates. The next day, Lizaya came to school as usual. After doing a good deed at night, his mind was clear and he felt happy. Next to the locker, Parker, who had arrived early, leaned against the wall listlessly. No matter who arrived at school first, they would wait for each other here. Hi, Peter. Lizaya patted Parker on the shoulder. Where did you get such an old-fashioned pair of glasses? Is it to highlight your image as a top student? Parker usually wears contact lenses, but today he got a pair of old retro black-framed glasses from somewhere and put them on his nose. Parker shrugged and said weakly, my temperament as a top student is outstanding. Do I need glasses to highlight it? After Lizaya got his things, the two walked into the classroom together and sat down in two adjacent seats, one in front and one behind. Yes, you are a top student. The top student in the class. No, The students of the entire Central City High School combined are not enough for you to beat. Parker smiled confidently. That's inevitable. Do you boys like to brag so much? A voice interrupted the conversation between the two. Parker's body shook violently. He was so familiar with this voice. Lysia turned her head when she heard the voice. For the first time, she used her own eyes to look at the girl who was talking next to her. Gwen Stacy, a blonde beauty wearing a shirt and a pullover, a short skirt and long boots showing a section of her big white legs, is the object of secret love between Parker and Lysia. Gwen looks very sweet, but not timid. Seeing Lysia and Parker looking at them, she smiled and greeted them generously. Hello, I'm Gwen Stacy. Parker was a little flustered. Ah, yes, I know, I'm Peter Parker. Lysia nodded to Gwen. Nice to meet you. Gwen smiled very kindly. Nice to meet you. X2 Lysia pouted. We've only known each other for 4 years in the same class. What's there to be happy about? Apostrophe correction, Gwen said politely. Parker is only the second in the class, not the first. Parker was a little unhappy. Even if you are a girl, you can't just deny others' pride. I'm the second, are you sure? Gwen nodded. Yes, I believe I'm right. Then who's the first? Lysia unconsciously straightened his chest and stretched out his hand to gather his hair. It seems that no matter how good people hide, they can't cover up their dazzling light. It's time to get to know you again. The first in our class. Anyway, it's not you? Gwen laughed happily. Zion, right? I always thought you were just a taciturn Chinese classmate. No offense, you Chinese people do talk less. But I didn't expect that you have a humorous side. Also, I didn't go to physical education class yesterday afternoon. I heard that you dealt with lightning. Lysia spread his hands, indicating that he didn't take the blame. Sister, even if you are beautiful, you can't talk nonsense. I was just playing a normal one-on-one basketball game with old you. Don't talk about cleaning up. I'm not going to do anything to him. Gwen Stacy covered her mouth and laughed. Old you? That name is quite strange. So, did you win the one-on-one basketball game? Of course, Lysia said with regret. It's a pity that you didn't see it. Do you know what you missed? It was a wonderful performance that could rival the NBA's top 10 plays of the year. That's really a pity. Seeing Lysia's arrogant look, Gwen nodded without any sincerity. So, have you considered which university to apply to? Duke University or UCLA? These famous basketball schools. Lysia thought for a while. I haven't thought about this question yet. But I don't want to leave New York to go to school. Duke University is in North Carolina and UCLA is in Los Angeles. Both are too far away. Why do you have to stay in New York? You have lived here for almost 20 years. Aren't you bored yet? Gwen asked with her head tilted. Why do you want to stay here? Lysia scratched her neck. Because this is Marvel's main stage. The Battle of New York will start in a few years. As a saint who protects the earth, do you want me to go to North Carolina or California to watch TV and cheer for the Avengers? Because of my ideal. Lysia nodded. Yes, ideal. I was born here, grew up here, and building and protecting this place is my ideal. Your ideal is really ambitious. Gwen curled her lips. She found that she still knew too little about Chinese people. Do Chinese people like to brag so much? It's okay. Ha ha, ha ha. Lysia, who ended the conversation, was completely unaware that he had just inadvertently smeared the Chinese community. Before, because of his personality, he was always timid and shy in front of Gwen, and he didn't say a few words in the 4 years of being in the same class. But like Parker, he regarded Gwen as a goddess and secretly loved her. But the Lysia who came through time was completely different from the previous one. How could a man who was destined to be extraordinary secretly love a little girl? Of course, he had to conquer the other party directly with his extraordinary personality charm. Parker behind him looked at Lysia and Gwen chatting with a dull face, but he couldn't say a word. We agreed to have a crush together, and you will lose my friendship if you go alone like this. Parker felt a little sad in his heart, lowered his head and began to write and draw on the notebook. What is this? Lysia ended the conversation with Gwen, came over and saw Parker writing a formula like a ghost painting on the notebook, and asked curiously, "Oh, decay." "Nothing, just write it casually." Parker reacted and tore off the paper on the notebook, crumpled it into a ball and threw it aside. Mysterious. Lizaya's eyes flashed but didn't say anything. He turned around to prepare the books for class, but the light in front of him suddenly dimmed. Lizaya looked up and saw Thompson standing in front of him like an iron tower. This guy had a fierce face, and he was still very oppressive when he stood aside without saying anything. "What's wrong?" Seeing that it was Thompson, Lizaya leaned on the table behind him with his arms folded. He had even knocked down 2 gangsters who were brandishing knives and guns. Now he didn't care about Thompson and his like. Whether it was a one-on-one fight or a group fight, he was not afraid at all. "Lightning, what are you going to do?" Parker stood up behind him and stood firmly on the same front with Lizaya. Gwen next to him also stood up worriedly. "Lightning, this is a campus. Think carefully before doing anything." Looking at Lizaya's fearlessness and the support of Parker and Gwen, Thompson suddenly felt that he was a failure in life. Could it be that I can't do anything serious and can only fight? Taking a deep breath, Thompson looked at Lizaya seriously, his eyes full of sincerity. "I want to play basketball. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Please continue to support." Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Farewell to Youth. Thompson's words made Lizaya a little unresponsive. "What do you mean?" "If you want to play basketball, go find the coach. You don't have long hair and you don't mix with the gang. The coach won't abandon you, right?" Thompson looked at the nervous Parker and Gwen, and explained with a somewhat depressed expression, "Don't worry, I'm not here to cause trouble." Looking down at Lizaya, Thompson said sincerely, "I'm here to ask for your help." Lizaya pointed to the empty chair behind Thompson, motioning him to sit down and talk. This guy was too big, and it was a bit tiring to look up his neck. "Tell me what it is first." "I may not help you, but I may not help you either." Thompson didn't act pretentiously and said directly, "It's like this. Our coach used to be an assistant coach on the college basketball team. This time, his former school basketball team came to New York for training, and the coach wants us to play a friendly game with the college team." Lizaya spread her hands. "Then I wish you good results and beat the college team to a pulp." Thompson's expression suddenly became a little lonely. "This may be my last game in school. Next month, I'm going to join the army." "Join the army?" Parker and Gwen were both surprised, especially Gwen. She had been tutoring Thompson recently, but now he said he was going to join the army. "You're not going to take the college entrance exam?" Thompson nodded awkwardly. "Yes." "Then you came to my house and asked me to help you with your lessons and guide you to do your homework." Gwen was almost furious. "You waste my time like this. Don't you feel guilty?" Thompson blushed. "Well, I'm sorry, Gwen. I wanted to tell you earlier, but every time we met, you started talking about studying, and I couldn't find a chance at all." Lizaya and Parker looked at each other. "Look at others. They chased me directly to my house. In comparison, the two of us are just idiots." Parker pouted. "You still talk to Gwen today. I'm the real idiot." Lizaya thought for a while. "We're all the same. This guy went to someone's house. Can't he only talk about studying?" I guess he didn't even hold her hand. "The world of female academic bullies, we don't understand." "You liar." Gwen sat back angrily. Thompson hurriedly explained, "Gwen, don't be angry. It's my fault. I did this because I like you." "Oh, forget it. Be angry if you want. I'm leaving soon anyway. I'll be gone for at least 2 or 3 years. If you meet a boy you want to date during this time, I have no objection. I think Lizaya is a good one. You can." "Who are you to me?" Gwen rolled her eyes, feeling a little funny. Hey," Lizaya interrupted Thompson's nagging. "I need you to help me. If you want to talk about something, just say it directly. If not, get out of here. Don't keep saying those stupid things that lower everyone's IQ." What to say? Thompson was stunned for a moment. "Oh, yes. Let's talk about business. I want to invite you to join us to face the Davidson College basketball team. They are very strong. I don't want to have regrets at the end of high school. I was wrong before, But you embarrassed me in front of so many people in the gym yesterday. We are even. We are all classmates. I hope you can help me." Although Thompson likes to bully his classmates because he is tall and strong, to put it bluntly, he is just a young man with youthful vigor. To be honest, he doesn't have any bad intentions. He can directly admit his mistakes and doesn't bother to mention his embarrassing things, which shows that he is a straightforward teenager. "Okay, since you think highly of me, then I promise you." Thompson doesn't want to have regrets in high school, and so does Laziah. What young man doesn't yearn to sweat profusely with his companions on the court while receiving enthusiastic cheers from girls of all styles outside the court? It is foreseeable that with the help of the small universe of the Holy Suitcase, it will not take long for Laziah's physical fitness to surpass that of high school students, and even the category of human beings. By then, it will be difficult to play a game as an ordinary person. If you are not careful, you will either break your opponent or knock over the basketball rack. Young people should do some young things. So, Laziah agreed to this matter directly. "When is the game?" "This afternoon." Thompson saw that Laziah agreed, and stood up excitedly. "Let's go to the gymnasium at noon to practice together." So soon. The game between Midtown High School and Davidson College was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When Laziah arrived at the gymnasium at 2 o'clock, he found that the gymnasium was already full, and the corridors and aisles were full of people. When Laziah walked into the gymnasium with Parker, he was shocked. Wow, so many people, all the seats are full." "Yeah," Parker replied in a careless manner. Laziah immediately lost interest in talking. These people were obviously not here to see him, but to see the baby-faced guy who was practicing shooting in the field. Stephen, the point guard of Davidson College, is a junior this year. He was rejected by Duke University, a giant in the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, because of his thinness, but he led a third-rate school to the top 8 in the country and rubbed the second and third in the country on the floor. Looking at the baby-faced guy, Laziah curled her lips and said, "You are very powerful now, and you will be more powerful in the future, but so what? This is the Marvel world. Even the future Spider-Man Laziah can get along with him calmly, let alone a future NBA star." But it seems not bad to use this guy to summarize his youth. The game started on time at 3 o'clock. As soon as the game started, Midtown High School double-teamed Stephen. The two people who double-teamed him were naturally Thompson and Laziah. The overall level of the Davidson College team is not strong. It mainly relies on the star player Stephen to activate the entire team. If Stephen is restricted, the normal game can be controlled. Relying on Thompson's strong body and Laziah's sharp consciousness, Stephen was confused throughout the game. He couldn't break out, couldn't pass the ball, and as long as the basketball was in his hands, it was the end and the starting point for the opponent to launch a counterattack. Although Stephen has the ability to shoot long-range three-pointers, things like super long three-pointers actually rely mostly on luck. Even if he can hit more than 50%, he can't beat the unreasonable flying dunk of the opponent's Chinese. The hit rate of dunks is close to 100%. Even the center of more than 2.1 meters can't stop him. Can this Chinese who is more than 1.8 meters tall be able to destroy girls and control women? It's said that he would carry the whole game and let the younger students see what the NCAA level of basketball is. Did you pull me here just to slap me in the face? What's wrong with a baby face? Is a baby face easy to bully? Did the baby face eat your rice? This is a pitfall. In the locker room after the game, Stephen threw his towel in anger. A high school team beat him by 20 points. If this were to be spread out, other schools would laugh at him. The three-point shooting rate is still a little bit low. I have to continue to practice when I go back. Outside the gymnasium, Thompson and Laziah stood side by side facing the sunset. "Thank you. I have no regrets." Laziah rolled her eyes helplessly. "Don't set flags randomly, okay? You are just joining the army, not really going to war. Who on this earth dares to fight the U.S. military?" Thompson smiled and did not argue. Laziah suddenly turned around. "Where is Parker?" "He disappeared before the game started." "Thank you for the reward. Thank you for your recommendation votes." "Thank you. I will continue to work hard." Chapter 9. Spider-Man. Although Parker came to the gym with Laziah for the afternoon game, He did not watch the official game and left early, because there were more important things waiting for him to verify. Similarly, Gwen did not come either, but went to her mentor who was doing research at Osborne Group, where she was doing internship in her spare time. Lizzie remembered the scribbled formula she saw in Parker's notebook in the morning. At that time, he said it was Zodiac. Although Lizzie did not remember this formula clearly, she had some impression of it. It should be left by Parker's father, Richard Parker. Although Parker did not say anything, his abnormal expression and the black-framed glasses on his nose made Lizzie have reason to guess that the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man was about to begin. With a sense of ritual to witness history, Lizzie rejected Thompson's suggestion to celebrate with the team members, and took a bus to Osborne Group. Without saying hello to Gwen, Lizzie watched Parker from a distance as he came out of the Osborne Group building and got on the subway alone. Following behind Parker, Lizzie secretly watched him across a car like a pervert. Soon after getting on the train, Parker fell asleep in a chair. If nothing else had happened, he might have slept until the subway stopped running. The train was moving. Since it was not rush hour, there were not many people in this carriage. There were only a few social people dressed in punk style talking loudly. As they were talking, they somehow noticed Parker, who was sleeping on the side. This group of people were obviously arrogant in their daily lives. Seeing that Parker had a face that was easy to bully, they wanted to play a trick on him. A bottle of iced beer was gently placed on Parker's forehead. Lizzie did not say anything to stop him, because the show was about to start. Ice beer is still very stimulating to people's senses, whether it is drunk into the stomach or on the skin. When the cold water drops on the sensitive skin, under its stimulation, a spade adamant with super strength, super speed and super sensitivity breaks out. Parker jumped up from the chair and stuck to the ceiling of the train in a stupid posture that violated the principles of mechanics. Everyone was stunned. The beer sprayed the woman standing next to him. Although the scene was not as tempting as being sprinkled with yogurt, the woman was still very unhappy. Parker saw this and naturally wanted to apologize. As a result, his apology was even more shameless than being a hooligan. He put his hands on the woman's shoulders and refused to let go. After being pushed, he became even more angry and embarrassed and tore off the woman's shirt. Well, this part is the imagination of those social people. Anyway, they are already furious. The battle started, and Parker, who didn't understand the situation, began to perform a juggling show. 10 seconds later, the battle ended. Parker successfully shot 2 people in the head and 2 people in the crotch, and got the gray prop, torn women's shirt X1. The unlucky woman still had a good figure, but her appearance was too low, so Lizzie had no interest in watching her again and again. After getting 5 kills, Parker felt confused about his life. How could he survive in this boring world when he was so outstanding? Looking around, Parker saw Lizzie in the next car at a glance. Although Lizzie wore a cap and a mask, and even put a pair of big black-framed glasses on her nose, and shrunk her body to reduce her presence, she still couldn't hide her outstanding temperament. With just one look, Parker confirmed that she was the right person. Lizzie, what happened? Parker rushed to Lizzie and asked in surprise. Lizzie threw her cap on the ground in a rage. What a joke. You can still recognize me in this state. Parker was stunned. You didn't change your clothes, and I sewed this round shield for you. Damn. Lizzie was defeated by his own naivety. He bought the clothes with Parker, and he was reluctant to throw them away because there was a tear on his shoulder. So he asked Parker to sew a Captain America round shield on it, with Parker's signature on it. Unexpectedly, he exposed himself. Parker raised his hands at a loss, with the torn women's top still stuck on his hands. Don't worry about that for now. What happened? Lizzie shrugged. Young man, you defended the glory of the tribe. Is the silver scale breastplate in your hand of blue quality? Huh? Parker had a black question mark face. The train arrived at the station, and Lizzie pulled Parker off the train. It was already dark outside. Walking on the quiet street, the occasional barking of a dog in the alley could scare Parker into a frightened bird. It was only a dozen minutes from the station to Parker's home, and Lizzie was almost scared to death by Parker's fright. When they arrived at the door, Lizzie pulled Parker and told him, although I don't know how this happened, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Go home and have a good sleep. Tomorrow is the weekend, let's make an appointment to study it carefully. Parker nodded blankly and went home. Lozaya turned and left. When passing by Parker's house, there was a sudden violent quarrel inside. It seemed to be a dispute between a drunkard and a rebellious daughter, because of beer and washing dishes. Lozaya was not interested in meddling in other people's family affairs, so she shook her head and turned away. Back at the orphanage, Lozaya dragged out the holy suitcase and sat cross-legged on it. Parker's incident made Lozaya realize that Spider-Man was coming, and the world might enter the era of superheroes because of him. An era full of heroes and villains. Where there are heroes, there must be villains, otherwise who will preserve the greatness of heroes and who will prove the significance of heroes' existence? In this era, fighting will be the only theme. Although superheroes may be able to defeat villains and win the battle every time, countless civilians will still be involved in the process. Let's not talk about anything else, just the Battle of New York. When the Chitauri army rushed into the earth without hesitation, the Mantis shrimp airships wandered freely between the high-rise buildings in New York, and the reinforced concrete jungle was destroyed by them like tofu. Who knows how many stairs collapsed and how many lives were taken away in that short period of time. 911 hit 2 buildings, killing nearly 3,000 people, shocking the world. The number of casualties in the Battle of New York is definitely much higher than that of 911. The trauma this battle brought to humanity cannot be made up by a meal of Turkish kebab afterwards. Lozaya is not a saint, he just can't turn a blind eye to these things. In any case, the speed of cultivation must be accelerated, and the back pattern must be cultivated as soon as possible. I wonder what kind of 8 things will be cultivated, thanks to For the Reward. Everyone's encouragement is so enthusiastic. Touched, love. Chapter 10, Condensed Back Pattern. After holding on to the holy suitcase for 30 minutes, Lozaya finally stopped exhausted and began to use the all-seeing to nourish his body. As expected, this time he held on to the self-torture for 30 minutes. Although the time was half longer than yesterday, his physical fitness did not improve as much as yesterday. Including the time in the previous 2 days, Lozaya's strength increased by almost 3 times in 3 days, but because his physical fitness was too poor before, after 3 times, his full-strength punch could only reach about 200 kilograms. Don't think that 200 kilograms doesn't seem very high. This is basically the limit of the human body. You should know that the pride of the Chinese, Bruce Lee, can only punch about 200 kilograms at most. In terms of speed, Lozaya has no way to test it, but he roughly estimates that if he runs a 100-meter race now, he can beat the shit out of a Jamaican. It took Lozaya only 3 days to evolve from a weak chicken with a punch force of less than 50 kilograms and a 50-meter time of more than 9 seconds to a fighting master whose speed and strength have basically reached the limit of the human body. In his original world, this speed of change can be said to be abnormal, and even taking hormones as food cannot achieve this effect. But in the Marvel world, this is nothing. Let's not talk about anything else, just say Parker. When Parker is familiar with the changes in his body tomorrow, his strength and speed will definitely be far superior to Lozaya by several levels. Spider-Man's official ability values are Strength 4 and Speed 5. According to the official ability value table, Strength 4 represents a strength of 800 pounds to 25 tons, and Speed 5 is between 2 and 22 Mach. 800 pounds is equivalent to more than 360 kilograms, and 2 Mach is twice the speed of sound, which is the speed that can be achieved after comprehending the microcosm. So even if Parker is now calculated according to the minimum standard of Spider-Man, his comprehensive physical fitness is far superior to Lozaya by several times. How long did Parker take to complete all this? It was just the time it took to be bitten, less than 3 seconds. A man's shame. Genetic mutation is so domineering. But Lozaya is not discouraged, because his room for growth is much larger than Parker's, as long as he can comprehend the microcosm. Now Lozaya's physical fitness has basically reached the limit of a normal human body. If he wants to continue to improve, he needs some other methods to assist. For example, condensing the back pattern of the 10,000 things. After recovering from the damage to his body, Lazia did not hesitate and sat directly on the holy clothes box to condense the back pattern. Tongnu's back pattern is a tiger, and Shiru's back pattern is a dragon. Lazia really wants to know what his back pattern is. He has a hunch that he will get the answer tonight. Under the night sky, several people hurriedly walked into a factory from the darkness, and came to the top floor of the factory office building. In this spacious office, sat a man with long hair and a somewhat melancholy face. "How is Chechen? Have you found the bird feather Huiyu?" The long-haired man with a heavy accent put down the cigarette in his hand and asked with a frown. The Chechen on the other side shook his head. "We have asked people in the streets where Sergeyevsky had the accident. We have never heard of such a person before, and there is no news about other gangs." The long-haired man was Anatoly Lankov, the younger brother of the Lankov brothers, the leaders of the Russian mafia. He frowned and exhaled a puff of smoke. "There is no news." Could it be that this Huiyu appeared out of thin air? Not only us, but also the Irish and Mexicans have never heard of it. Whether he appeared out of thin air or fell from the sky, I will scrape him out and send him to hell with my own hands. Chechen said fiercely, "I dare to offend our Russian mafia. I will definitely make you regret coming to this world." As the two were talking, the door of the inner room was pushed open, and a short-haired man with a scar on his face came out with a red-haired woman. "It's so late, I'll have someone take you there, Miss Rushman," the short-haired man suggested. Rushman nodded. "No need, Mr. Lankov. My friend is nearby and he can pick me up." Both of them spoke with the same thick Russian accent as Anatoly. The short-haired man said regretfully, "In that case, I won't force you. I'll send someone to take you out." Chechen followed the order and accompanied the red-haired woman out. Anatoly stood up and said, "Brother, have you figured out the origins of this woman? We can't be fooled by her." The short-haired man Vladimir Lankov shook his head. "I'm afraid this Miss Natalie Rushman is not as simple as she said." But Vladimir stood by the window and watched Rushman get in the car and leave, and said in a deep voice, "She wants to use us, but we may not be unable to use her. After all, we have only been in New York for less than 5 years. Although we have made some power, our foundation is not solid. It won't hurt to get in touch with more fellow countrymen." "Let's not talk about him." Vladimir turned his head and asked, "How is it over there? Have you found that Huiyu?" Anatoly shook his head. "Not yet. Chechen hasn't found out the news, but I think he will appear again. As long as he appears, I will catch him." Vladimir nodded. "Let the brothers bring weapons and blow his head off when they see him. Otherwise others will think that we Russians are easy to bully. I have arranged it a long time ago. No matter what kind of bird he is, he will be dead when he sees us." Anatoly replied. Outside the door, Rushman, who got on the car, lowered his head to his collar and said, "I'm out. I'm going back now." A man's voice came from the Bluetooth headset in her ear. "I saw that there is no one following behind. Just go back without worry." "But I see that the Slankov brother is still wary of you." Rushman chuckled. "It's normal. If they really believed me so easily, they wouldn't have developed into what they are now in less than 5 years. They would have been eaten up by the New York gangs long ago." "You are right. Let's talk about it in detail when we get back." Okay. Rushman ended the call and patted the driver's seat. "Jimmy, let's go back." In the orphanage, Lazai was at a critical juncture. As he continued to absorb, the natural energy around him rushed towards him frantically, and even formed a large cyclone. Even Joan and Clarice, who were not on the same floor, felt something strange in the air. After an unknown amount of time, the cyclone finally stopped, and under the night sky, a loud phoenix cry rang out in the night sky. On the holy clothes box, Lazai remained sitting cross-legged, and his t-shirt had long been burned to ashes by a layer of red flames on his body. The red flames continued to gather, and finally slowly turned into a pattern, imprinted on Lazai's back. It was a giant red bird with a handsome figure and sharp eyes, covered with golden flames. If the recommended votes exceed 1,000, I will add more. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 11 The Strongest Divine Bird. Lazai looked at the tattoo on his back in the mirror and felt a little emotional. The tattoo was so cool. The eyes looked like they were coming alive. Even if it jumped out of his back and flew up into the sky, Lazai would not feel any sense of disobedience. I just don't know what kind of bird this is. The tattoo was a divine bird with fire attributes. Lazai was very sure of that. But in mythology, there are too many birds with fire attributes, such as Bafang, Jinwu, King Luan, and Huofeng. There are also Bennu birds and immortal birds in foreign mythology. It seems that the name of Bennu bird Huiyuo that I made up a few days ago is not wrong. I am really a bird. So awkward. Suddenly, a layer of golden red flames flashed on the fire bird behind him, and the flames made Lazai dizzy even through the mirror. When the flames faded, the fire bird behind him gradually disappeared. But Lazai also figured out what his tattoo was, the legendary divine bird, Suzaku. The vermilion bird is one of the 4 spirits of heaven in ancient mythology, and the vermilion bird back pattern is also one of the strongest 4 spirit back patterns that can be cultivated by Senryuo Wangxiang. People who can condense the 4 spirit back patterns are born with powerful strength. Tongnu's tiger group and Zilong's dragon picture both belong to the 4 spirit back patterns. Spreading out his palm, a spark ignited in Lazai's palm. The spark jumped, seemingly calm but violent. This is the benefit brought by the vermilion bird back pattern. The flame generated by controlling the natural energy is powerful, but with Lazai's current ability, the flame that can be generated is not much. In any case, from now on, Lazai is also a half-superhuman existence, and has the initial power of self-protection in this world. The back pattern condensed by Senryuo Wangxiang is normally hidden. It will only appear when the user uses his ability to stimulate it and greatly increase the user's physical attributes. This setting is still very considerate, otherwise Lazai would not dare to take off his clothes easily in the future. Otherwise it would take a long time to explain to people the origin of this cool and domineering back pattern. When Clarissa opened the door, she saw Lazai looking at her beautiful back in the mirror. After several strengthening sessions, Lazai's body has obvious muscle lines. Although it is not as explosive as when Mr. Governor was young, it is also full of masculine beauty. 7-year-old Clarissa is still too young to have too many thoughts. She just thinks that her brother has become stronger. If she were 10 years older, she could feed herself just by swallowing saliva. Brother, you ... What are you doing? Clarissa sniffed. What's that smell? It stinks. Lazai smelled himself, and there was indeed a stinky smell. He was still wondering why his body had been strengthened 3 times but the impurities in the body had not been discharged after the marrow was washed and the bones were cut. It turned out that the time had not come yet. What do you want to talk to me about? Lazai pulled a towel and prepared to wash. If you have something to say, just tell me, and then hurry up, or I'll stink you up. HMPH. Clarissa wrinkled her nose. Grandma Joan is waiting for you in the study. I'm leaving first, you big stink bug. Woo. Clarissa stuck out her tongue and turned around and ran away. After Lazai finished taking a shower, she found a white vest and put it on, nodding in front of the mirror with satisfaction. In fact, Lazai had long envied the look of Wolverine in the movie Wolverine. A simple white vest shows the outline of the muscles without showing off the meat so obviously. To put it simply, it's just one word: handsome as hell. When Lazai walked into the study, Joan was obviously stunned for a moment. She pulled down her reading glasses and carefully looked at Lazai's body from outside the lenses. Smelly boy, it's so cold. Why did you come down in just a vest? Do you want to catch a cold? Hurry back and dress me. I don't have enough money to take you to the hospital. Grandma, I'm fine. I'm strong. Look. Lazai began to imitate the poses of those bodybuilders on TV, trying to show off his beautiful muscle contours. Unfortunately, in the eyes of Grandma Joan, who was only 60 years old, these were no different from idiots. Finally, under Joan's coercion, Lazai still put on a coat to cover up his outstanding temperament. Okay, Grandma, tell me what's the matter. Lazai said while sitting cross-legged on a wooden bench. Since he had the holy cloth box, he became more and more accustomed to this cross-legged sitting style like teacher Tanu. Joan closed the book in her hand and said slowly, it's like this. During the day, people from Stark Industries came to the orphanage, led by a female senior executive. After learning about the situation of the orphanage, the person directly donated money and food. and stayed here to play with the children for a while. Before leaving, the man found Joan and proposed to adopt a child. Joan did not agree directly because the man wanted to adopt Clarice, and Joan felt that she could not make the decision alone. There are so many children in the orphanage, but you only like Clarice. Lozai was a little uneasy. Clarice was the child with whom he had the best relationship, and he also planned to keep her for himself. He even planned that after 6 or 7 years, he would definitely be able to get the holy clothes out of the holy clothes box. By then, he would dye Clarice's hair purple, make a white gauze dress, and make a golden cane. When the two of them stood together, there was no need to say anything, and the screen was full of memories. But someone else actually remembered her. He suddenly felt like the meat on his plate was about to be snatched away. Joan saw the reluctance in Lozai's eyes, so she comforted him. I know you and Clarice are like siblings, and I was afraid you wouldn't want to be separated, so I didn't agree to her directly, but said I'd think about it. Lozai sighed. He could see that Joan didn't agree, not because she didn't want to agree, but because she was considering his feelings and was afraid that he would be reluctant to let Clarice go, because no matter from which angle, it was better for Clarice to be adopted by that person than to stay in this orphanage. Sure enough, Joan continued, I wanted to hear your opinion first. Miss Potts is not a bad person. She holds a high position, like the assistant to the chairman. Her conditions are definitely much better than what we have here, and she is not married yet. If Clarice really follows her, she will not be wronged. Assistant to the chairman, Ms. Potts? Lozai frowned. Is her full name Pepper Potts? Joan nodded. Yes, that's right. Do you know Miss Potts too? Lozai touched her chin and muttered. It turned out to be Pepper Potts. How could Pepper Potts suddenly think of adopting a child? Does she have time to raise a child? She is busy enough to wipe Tony Stark's ass every day. Then Miss Potts is a really good person. Joan was still speaking well of Pepper Potts. It seemed that she agreed in her heart. Lozai did not want to disobey Joan's kindness, so she nodded and said, Grandma, you are right. If the other party is really like this, it is also a blessing for Clarice. As long as Clarice is willing, I have no objection. Chapter 12. Gathering together. The next morning, Lozai and Parker met at the locker as usual. Zion, I might be sick. Parker leaned against the wall and said weakly. Lozai touched Parker's forehead. Isn't it fine? No fever. No, you know. Parker looked around and leaned over to whisper. When I was brushing my teeth this morning, I just gently bent the faucet and the door handle, and I broke them all. And I could even hear the sound of ants crawling in the house. Do you think this is normal? I feel like I'm so strong now. Like becoming Captain America? Yes, that's right. Parker nodded repeatedly. Lozai reminded. Didn't you become like this in the subway last night, flying and ripping a woman's clothes? That was an accident, Parker quickly explained. He didn't want this matter to spread in the school. Think about when your body started to change, and have you encountered anything unusual recently? Lozai couldn't tell him about the spider directly, so he could only guide him to think about it himself. Parker touched the scar on his neck and murmured, could it really be about that spider? In a world without weak people, everyone is equal. Using zebrafish genes to regenerate dopamine-secreting brain cells for Alzheimer's patients. Is cross-species inheritance really feasible? Lozai spread his hands. What zebrafish dopamine? I don't know what you are talking about. I know. Parker clapped his hands. Cross-species inheritance is Dr. Connors' research topic. I went to the Osborne group yesterday to visit Dr. Connors' experimental project. Lozai clapped her hands. This may be the problem. Dr. Connors has researched something that can improve a person's physical fitness to the same level as the captain, and you are the beneficiary of this project. Parker turned around, his brows wrinkled like two caterpillars, his face full of surprise and joy. Are you sure? Are there any other explanations? Hey, guys, what are you talking about? Thompson came over from behind, saw Zion Parker, and patted Parker on the shoulder. Peter, why did you? Before Thompson's hand could reach his shoulder, Parker, who was a little dazed, grabbed his wrist with his backhand as if he had foreseen the future, and then subconsciously twisted it to the side. Ah! Thompson's screams rang out in the corridor. attracting a crowd of onlookers. His status as the school bully was completely lost. Gwen just walked into the school and saw everyone watching from afar. She couldn't help but pull her classmate next to her out of curiosity. "Hey, Jessica, what happened?" Jessica blushed and lowered her head. No, I didn't look." Seeing Jessica's shy look, Gwen felt a mischievous taste in her mouth. She pulled Jessica, who wanted to escape, and asked viciously, "Jessica, you dare to lie to me? Tell me, were you peeking at Lazia just now?" Jessica was stunned. No, there's nothing good about Lazia. I didn't look at anyone." Gwen pointed at the 3 people in the crowd and said, "You said you like boys with slender figures. If it's not Lazia, then it must be." "Oh, I see, Pa." Jessica hurriedly pulled Gwen. "Gwen, keep your voice down. I don't want him to know, please." "Why not?" Gwen was a little surprised. "We are about to graduate. If you don't tell us now, when will you tell us? Do you want to apply to the same university as him?" Jessica shook her head. "Anyway, don't say anything for now. Wait for me to think about it. By the way, don't just talk about me. What about you? Do you like Lazia?" Gwen took a step back with a twinkling look in her eyes. "Why are you talking about me? I don't want to date anyone for the time being." Jessica won a small victory and stopped asking questions. Seeing that the people in front had dispersed, the 2 of them walked into the classroom hand in hand. In the classroom, Thompson rubbed his wrist and complained, "Is there something wrong with me, or is this world wrong? How come you 2 are stronger than each other? Speaking of which, I always thought you were easy to bully, but it turns out you don't care about me." Lazia and Parker smiled at each other, and then shrugged in tacit understanding. Gwen and Jessica, who had just walked into the classroom, happened to see this scene, and a song of Liang Liang rang in their hearts at the same time. Looking at the appearance of these 2 people, they are not gay, right? Is this the reason why they didn't have a girlfriend for 4 years in high school? Thompson looked up and saw Gwen coming in. He stood up quickly. "Gwen, you're here." My tutoring." Gwen threw her things on the table and said without raising her head, "Aren't you going to join the army?" "There's no tutoring anymore. There will be no more tutoring in the future." Thompson was completely broken. In less than 3 days, his life fell from the peak to the bottom. Not only did the 2 weaklings who were often bullied by him become Popeye, but the girl he wanted to pursue was completely out of the question. Who the hell can I go to for justice? I can't be compared to others like this. When I join the army, I must be the best. Well, I will be a Marine Corps, and I must not lose to you 2 guys. Thompson swore secretly in his heart. Seeing the girl behind Gwen, Lazia couldn't help but jump. He knew this classmate. Her name was Jessica Campbell. Jessica Campbell is not very tall, her appearance is not outstanding, her grades are average, her personality is not cheerful nor introverted, and she is an ordinary female classmate without a story. But Lazia couldn't help but pay attention to her, because she was also destined to be a star of misfortune like Parker. Spider-Man Peter Parker is an extraordinary unlucky guy who lost his parents and uncle, found a girlfriend, and then his father-in-law died, and in the end he couldn't even keep his girlfriend. Jessica Campbell is a poor person who was the only one who survived a car accident in her family of 4. These 2 people are very compatible. It depends on who will kill whom first. Everyone fell into silence, and no one was interested in talking for a while. Suddenly, an unknown classmate next to him said mysteriously, "Hey, have you heard about it? A few days ago, a murder happened on 30th Street. 2 men were seriously injured. One had his leg broken and he will never be able to stand up again in his life. The other was even worse. He was beaten into a fool." "I know. It is said that a man named Benyunia Huiyuo did it. The one with the broken leg was broken by him stepping on it. It was a powder fracture." "Really? So cruel? No wonder Huiyuo is such a bad name. It sounds like a pervert." "That's right. I hope the police can catch him and lock him up as soon as possible. Lock him up until he dies." "That's right. Such a person is too dangerous." Listening to the discussions around her, Gwen couldn't help but speak up. "Haven't you heard that Huiyuo beat people to save people? The 2 people who were beaten were human traffickers. If it weren't for Huiyuo, the human traffickers would have succeeded. Don't disbelieve it. The victim was received by my dad. Gwen's father is the sheriff of the 19th district, so her words are naturally credible. Liza thought of Sheriff George Stacy, Gwen's father, who was once killed by Parker. He was a man who hated evil and might turn against him in the future. It seems that he has to stay away from Gwen in the future. Liza doesn't want to have a girlfriend and face the death stare of her dead father all day long. It will scare people to death. I just opened the backstage and was shocked. Book friend 20170213174339425 inches gave 9 rewards for a total of 2,500. Is there a system failure? Funny. Thank you for your support. Thank you. And thank you Jong Dh for the 500 reward. Nothing more to say. There is another chapter tonight. Thank you for your support, friends. Chapter 13 vs. Spider-Man. In the school gymnasium, Liza and Parker stood opposite each other. There were only 2 of them in the spacious gymnasium. Parker looked at Liza hesitantly. Are you sure you want to do this? Liza clapped her hands. I said it's okay, so come on. Parker raised his fist, hesitated for a long time and finally put it down. I think I'd better forget it. I'm really strong. I don't even know how hard my punch will hit you. What if I hit you badly? Liza grabbed a basketball with one hand and threw it at Parker. The basketball hit Parker's arm with a gust of wind, knocking him off balance. How about it? Liza smiled and raised her chin. Is this strength enough to challenge you? Spade Adamant. Huh? Spade Adamant. Parker thought for a moment. This name seems not bad. Then Mr. Spade Adamant, can we hurry up? There's not much time left, and we have to rush back to class, Liza urged impatiently. This year's Spider-Man is not good. He is too indecisive. Under Liza's repeated urging, Parker clenched his fists. Okay, then I won't be polite. Come on. The 2 figures collided with each other at a high speed, fists clashed, and the tip of the needle met the thorn. Bang! After a loud bang, the 2 retracted their fists, grinning and shaking their hands. Their knuckles were a little red and about to break the skin. Why does your strength seem to have become stronger? It didn't seem to be this strong when you fought Thompson last time. Parker looked at Liza in disbelief. Last time, Liza failed to knock Thompson away. According to Parker's judgment, his strength was at most similar to Thompson's, and he was far away from him. Liza flexed his knuckles. I've said that I have amazing bones and am a rare martial arts prodigy with endless room for growth. How come you finally believe it now? Parker exhaled and straightened his back. Well, I was afraid that I would hurt you before, but now it seems that I was worrying too much. In this case, let's have a duel between men. Where did you learn these lines? They make me feel a little distracted. This is the line of Saint Seiya. Okay, having said that, the 2 of them did not hesitate anymore. Each of them rushed towards each other at the fastest speed, and waved their hands to punch with the greatest power. Bang! This time, Liza was beaten back several steps. In terms of strength, he was still not as good as the hanger-up Parker. Not only in strength, when Liza retreated, Parker rushed up right after him, so fast that he didn't have time to dodge in a panic. Facing Parker's fist, he could only hold his arm in front of him. Bang! This time, Liza slid back nearly 10 meters with his feet flat on the ground before stopping. The intense heat from the wooden floor of the gymnasium rubbed the rubber soles of his shoes, almost scorching the soles, leaving 2 black marks on the floor. Parker stopped and asked worriedly, Zion, how are you? That was my full strength attack just now. It seems that my strength and speed are better than yours. At the end, Parker's mouth curled up, and he actually felt a little happy in his heart. There is no first in literature, and no second in martial arts. This principle is applicable even in the United States. The 2 useless weaklings almost simultaneously obtained extraordinary abilities. Even if they have a good relationship, they can't help but compare them in their hearts. There is nothing wrong with Parker's secret joy, but Liza's fighting power is not just strength and speed. Yes, I am still a little behind you in strength and speed. Liza nodded, and rubbed his numb arm. But who told you that in a fight, the one with the advantage in strength and speed will definitely win? What else? Parker spread his hands. In his opinion, Liza was just forcing himself to make excuses. Okay, Lazaya moved his fingers. Then I'll prove to you that as long as you have enough skills, you can take the initiative in the fight even if you are at a disadvantage in strength and speed. After Lazaya finished speaking, he rushed towards Parker. Parker stood there leisurely. His speed was faster than Lazaya, so his observation and reaction were naturally faster. He could see every move of Lazaya clearly, so it was not difficult for him to defend and counterattack. Facing Lazaya's straight punch, Parker dodged to the side without thinking. At this speed, he could completely dodge it. But before Parker could dodge, Lazaya began to change his moves and pushed his elbow to the side. When Parker finished dodging the straight punch, he found that his temple just stopped at the position where Lazaya's elbow attacked. Lazaya's elbow retreated before it hit Parker, and he took a half step back. When Parker recovered from the shock, he attacked again. This time it was still a straight punch. Lazaya's attack routine was no different from the last time, but Parker obviously felt that the speed was much slower than last time. In this case, Parker did not think about dodging, and directly grabbed Lazaya's arm with both hands. As long as he controlled this arm, he could restrain Lazaya. Just like last time, when Parker was about to reach out, Lazaya's arm retracted. When Parker thought that he was backing down and gave up the idea of grabbing his arm, Lazaya's fist only made a small retracting movement, and then hit Parker's chest at a faster speed. Parker was hit. The next process was Lazaya's personal show, Chengdu's show. Parker had strength and speed that surpassed Lazaya, but his movements were always predicted. He couldn't hit Lazaya when he wanted to, and he couldn't dodge his attacks when he wanted to. After dozens of moves, Parker was finally overwhelmed. Stop, 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 you won, you are awesome, I am afraid of you. Parker jumped out of the battle circle and surrendered directly. The experience just now almost left a psychological shadow on him. You are like a loach, I can't even touch you, let alone fight with you. What kind of kung fu is so powerful? Is it really sold to you by the old beggar? Correction, Lazaya panted. It seems that he is still inferior to Parker in endurance. You can't touch me not because I am like a loach, but because I am as graceful as a swimming dragon. Parker curled his lips. Gentle as a swimming dragon? It's not good to brag about yourself like this. This is the truth. Lazaya shook his head and boasted. Although this is not the martial arts secret book sold to me by the old beggar, it is also a powerful fighting method. Its name is Wandering Tiger. Thousand People Dance. Parker frowned. Wandering Tiger. Thousand People Dance, not Wandering Dragon? Don't pay attention to those details, the meaning is the same. Lazaya waved his hand to cover up his embarrassment. Lazaya was somewhat excited to be able to defeat Spider-Man. After all, he has not even reached the standard of Saint Seiya candidates yet. Although Parker is not in his perfect form, and has not yet equipped his spider silk launcher, his strength and speed still have a lot of room for improvement. But Lazaya did not use his Suzaku fire, and his clothes did not explode, so overall, Lazaya is slightly better. To give back to everyone's support and encouragement, I will update more. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Chapter 14 Demonstration Teaching. Yuusenin Dances from Saint Seiya Hades Mythology LC Dako Gaiden. It is a set of fighting methods created by Dako after integrating thousands of martial arts. Yuusenin dance is a set of fighting methods that can be performed without relying on the microcosm. It brings the flexibility and coordination of the human body to the extreme, and can produce the effect of defeating the strong with the weak and defeating many with one under extreme circumstances. In the original work, after the previous holy war, Dako was given the God-suspended death method by Athena in order to guard the seal of the Hades warriors. The number of times his heart beats in a year is only equivalent to the number of times a normal person beats in a day. In this way, he can sit on the five elders' peak for 243 years, but his body has only aged for 243 days. After the God-suspended death method is lifted, he can still return to his peak state at the age of 18. The consequence of a significant slowdown in heartbeat is insufficient blood supply and decreased body function. Such a Dako cannot maintain high-intensity exercise, and cannot exert normal strength when using the microcosm and Saint Seiya fighting methods. Tongnu, whose strength was greatly reduced, relied on the Ykaineran dance combat method. When fighting against the Taoist priest who practiced the all-seeing, he endured the powerful sound wave attack while passing through hundreds of sparrow warriors with great strength and speed, and took off all the bells on their necks. Perhaps in the battle between the saints, which was several times the speed of sound or even the speed of light, Ykaineran dance would not play any role. But before comprehending the microcosm, when facing an opponent who is stronger than oneself in strength and speed, or a large number of enemies, Ykaineran dance, as a set of close combat methods, can make people free from the dense attacks of the enemy with ease, and wait for opportunities to create opportunities to kill in one fell swoop. After listening to Lazia's introduction, Parker was a little jealous. "Can I learn this?" Lazia nodded. Of course. Although Parker's speed and reaction are amazing, because of the existence of the spider silk launcher, his attack method still tends to be a swing-like long-range attack. Once he is approached by someone and loses the bonus of spider silk, he will fall into a state of panic and passive attack. If he can learn the thousands of tiger dances, he can make up for the shortcoming of melee combat and become a strong control-type durable hero who can be close or far. "Can I learn it too?" The door of the gym was pushed open a crack, and Thompson stuck his head in and shouted loudly. Lazia looked at Thompson, who did not feel ashamed for eavesdropping on other people's conversations, but was full of expectations, and suddenly felt helpless. "Lightning, aren't you going to join the army?" Nowadays, wars are fought with hot weapons, tanks, planes, and missiles. It's useless for you to learn this. It's a waste of time. Thompson leaned in and closed the door with his backhand. "You are not entirely right. Although modern warfare has become information-based and diversified, no matter what kind of war it is ultimately a war between people, so learning a fighting skill will never be a disadvantage. And I want to be a Marine Corps. I want to be the king of Marines." Lazia turned to look at Parker, who was not a man who cherished his own achievements, and shrugged to show that he had no objection. Mr. Lugson said, "There is no distinction in teaching." Well, this is what Confucius said. Lazia would not teach Thompson the U-1000 people dance just because he was a school bully. First of all, he is not a bad person by nature. Secondly, the method of warfare is not something you can learn just because you want to. If it weren't for the small universe of the Holy Suitcase directly pouring this into Lazia's brain, he might have to learn it for several years before he could learn it. So, there is a reason why Tong-U did not pass this trick on later. Instead of practicing martial arts for a few years, it is better to practice the small universe more. Before formally teaching, there are still some procedures to go through. I hereby swear that everything I have learned will be used in the right way. I will not bully the weak, humiliate the weak, or kill my brothers. I will do my best to uphold justice, eliminate evil, and protect the earth. That's right, swear. When Lazia received the inheritance of the Saint Seiya, he was passively instilled with the belief and will to protect the earth by the Holy Cloth Box microcosm. Now, he wants to teach others what the Holy Cloth Box taught, and naturally he has to persuade them to uphold justice. Oaths are sometimes not just a ritual, but can subtly strengthen a person's beliefs. Seeing Lazia's solemn attitude, Parker and Thompson unconsciously became serious, and made room in their hearts for the word protection. Lazia was very pleased with the attitudes of the two. As for what will happen in the future, let's wait and see. You two have no martial arts foundation, so I will teach you some simple ones first, which can be regarded as a castrated basic teaching demonstration. Watch carefully. After saying that, Lazia began to practice a set of martial arts routines. The movements were relatively simple, and even foreigners who had not been exposed to martial arts could imitate them. Parker and Thompson performed even better than Lazia imagined. Parker's observation ability was enhanced because of the super spider gene, and his imitation ability was naturally not weak. But Thompson was a bit surprising. Could he also be a martial arts genius with amazing bones? In comparison, Daniel Rand in Iron Fist was far worse. With his movements, he dared to say that he came from Kunlun. Kunlun, the ancestor of all mountains in Chinese mythology, is one of the seven heavens that inherit martial arts in Marvel, representing the highest realm of martial arts in the Marvel universe. But Daniel's shitty martial arts moves made Americans silent and Chinese people cry. What a bullshit. After learning the basic routines, seeing that the two of them were learning it easily, Lazia began to teach the advanced version with a higher difficulty, and the difference was indeed revealed. Parker could still learn a lot, but Thompson had a little difficulty understanding it. As expected, he was still an ordinary person. After practicing for an afternoon, Parker basically learned the advanced version, and the only thing he lacked was some integration. Thompson also learned the general idea, and the combat effectiveness of the two people directly increased to a higher level. After school, in order to celebrate the initial friendship between the three people, Thompson suggested that he treat everyone to go to the bar. Although they were not yet of legal drinking age, who would be so serious in private? With Thompson, a man who had seen the world, leading the way, the three of them took a car directly to the bar. This kind of place was something that Lazia and Parker had never dared to think of before. They had long admired this place. It was said that this was a magical place that could transform boys. Unfortunately, as soon as the three of them walked to the door, they were pushed out by an old man with completely white hair. Go away. What are you doing here, kid? Go home and go to sleep, or I'll tell your grandma Joan. The old man gave Lazia a look, and then leisurely walked into the strip club behind him. Lazia pouted, if Grandma knew you came here to play DJ for people at night, I wonder if she would still pay attention to you. This chapter is dedicated to the helmsman Yizixi. Thank you for your support. I, the author, also have a helmsman. I feel like my butt is about to burst with laughter. Ha 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 ha. Thank you all for your support. I received your recommendation votes. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Joint Assault. The appearance of the white-haired old man ended the bar trip of the three people before it even started. The old man was very polite. Not only did he tell the strip club he entered not to accept the three people, he also asked the boy watching the door to notify all the bars on the nearby street. Whoever dared to accept these three guys, the old man would make him disappear from this world. Thompson was a little embarrassed, and he took Lazia and Parker to try various bars. Sure enough, no store dared to let them in. Who is this old dong? Old man? How can his words be so effective? The strong desire to survive made Thompson change the words on his lips. Lazia sighed. That's Uncle Lee. He said no. No matter who comes, it won't work. Are you familiar with him? Parker looked at the door of the strip club with some yearning in his eyes, not knowing whether it was Uncle Lee or the club. Yeah, Lazia nodded. He is the old lover of Grandma Joan, the director of our orphanage. The three of them didn't go to the bar, and they went home in disinterest. I'm leaving in 2 days. I wanted to have some fun with you guys, but it seems like there's no chance. Thompson kicked the cans on the street, looking a little depressed. Parker patted his shoulder. It's just a military service. Don't talk about life and death. Lazia also said, don't say anything like you'll be in the military for a few years and then come back to get married. Blah blah blah. You can't afford the consequences. Hey! Thompson kicked hard and kicked the can directly away, drawing an arc and flying to the door of a van a few dozen meters away. Bang! The sound of the collision was heard far away in the night. The three were about to run away quickly when no one was watching to avoid pain compensation, when the van suddenly shook a few times and a faint scream came from the car. Although the sound was short, Lazia and Parker could hear it clearly. Was there a ghost in the car? As a former veteran driver, Lazia was very sure that it was not a car sex. The rhythm and tone were obviously wrong. The three of them were curious and prepared to go forward to check it out. Just after walking a few steps, the passenger door of the car was suddenly opened, and a fat man came down from it. Before he could stand firmly, he heard the fat man shouting, "You bastards! You dare to damage my car! You don't want to live, right? Get out of here!" The fat man was full of energy and his voice was loud. In addition, he had a hideous and ugly face, and his harsh words were very intimidating. When Thompson heard it, he instinctively wanted to turn around and leave, because he saw a person sitting in the driver's seat from the car door opened by the fat man. Thompson, who was familiar with the streets, knew that these people must not be good people, and they might be gangsters. It would be better if they didn't have to pay for the car, so he ran away quickly to avoid getting into trouble. Lezyon Parker heard a woman's suppressed sobbing and a man's low threatening voice from the open car door. The two looked at each other, nodded at the same time, turned around and followed Thompson away. Turning a corner, Thompson said with relief, "I didn't expect there were people in the car. Luckily, they seemed to be busy and didn't have time to deal with us. Otherwise, we would be in trouble and might have to pay a lot of money," Thompson said, but no one responded. When he turned around, he found Lezyon Parker parked at the corner, carefully looking back. "Hey, hurry up, those people might be gangsters, we can't afford to offend them." Thompson came up and prepared to pull the two away. He was the one who brought the people out, and he had the responsibility to bring them back safely. Lezyon gently broke free from Thompson's hand. "Lightning, go back first, keep your phone on, we'll contact you later." "Huh?" Thompson had a question mark on his face. "Zyan, are you crazy? They are gangsters. They all have guns. Stop messing around and let's go." Lezyon glanced at Parker, who continued, "Lightning, this is what happened. My uncle asked me to pick up my Aunt May from get off work, and Lezyon and I happened to be on the same way, so we went together." Thompson frowned. "Peter, do you think I'm a fool? Who would believe such nonsense?" Parker wanted to say more, but Lezyon suddenly patted his arm. The three of them leaned out and saw from a distance that the trunk of the van was opened, and two people lifted an unconscious woman and threw her into the car. Then the car started and whistled away. "Is this kidnapping?" "Kidnapping?" Thompson was dumbfounded. For an ordinary high school student, the impact of seeing such a thing with his own eyes was still too great. Lezyon ignored Thompson's words and pointed to the roof of a building next to him and said to Parker, "You are fast. Go up there. I will chase you from below. We must not lose them." "Okay." Parker nodded without hesitation, jumped up and stretched his legs to kick the wall. Then he jumped up, then climbed up with his hands and limbs, and soon he climbed up to the roof that was more than 10 meters high. Thompson was completely stunned. His mouth opened as if he wanted to eat a child. "Lightning, go home quickly." Lezyon patted Thompson's shoulder and rushed into the alley. "Zyan, As soon as Thompson lowered his head, he felt a gust of wind blowing in front of him, sweeping him so hard that he almost couldn't even open his eyes. When he came to his senses, Lezyon's figure had already reached the entrance of the alley dozens of meters away. WTF? Thompson felt like he was going crazy. "Are you two still human?" Watching Lezyon Parker leave, Thompson knew that he couldn't keep up with them, and even if he did, he probably wouldn't be able to help much, but would be a drag. As for the kung fu practice with Lezyon in the afternoon, he only learned a little bit, and it was a bit blindly optimistic to say that he could use it directly in actual combat. However, Thompson felt that it would be too embarrassing to go home like this, so after thinking about it, he turned back to the strip club. "I told you not to come in. Go back quickly." The social person watching the scene at the door began to drive Thompson away from a distance. Thompson walked up, pointed inside and said, "I have something to ask Uncle Lee." Lezyon rushed out of the alley and chased for a block, but lost the figure of the van on the road. With his current ability, it was a bit difficult to chase the car with his legs. At this moment, the phone rang, and Lezyon took out the phone. It was Parker calling. "They're heading towards 19th Street, take this." A shadow hit the foam of the garbage dump next to him. Lezyon looked over and saw the skateboard that Parker was carrying. A shadow jumped over his head and Parker had already chased him along the roof. Lezyon didn't think about it anymore and kicked the skateboard, which flew out like an arrow. "I never thought that I would have to cosplay as a dead elementary school student one day." Chapter 16, Pursuing the Enemy. With Parker directing from above, Lezyon didn't have to worry about going the wrong way. He pushed hard with his feet, and the skateboard instantly reached the speed of a motorcycle. The skateboard of a dead elementary school student with thrusters that can chase trains and subways is no more than that. The United States is a country on wheels. Although it was night, there was a lot of traffic. Lazai inevitably staged a thrilling special effects movie by speeding through the alleys and roads. Unfortunately, the funds are limited, so I won't describe it in detail here. Parker, who was parkering on the roof, communicated with Lazai through his mobile phone while running. They turned 20 direction. By the way, who are these people? Are they really the gangsters that Lightning said? Remember the murder on 30th Street? Lazai's voice came from the receiver, and there was also a sharp brake sound. Remember, one unconscious and one seriously injured. Are you okay? Parker jumped up and easily crossed a distance of more than 10 meters and jumped to the roof of another building. It's okay. Those two are members of the gang that traffics women, and they belong to the Russian Mafia. Russian Mafia? They seem very powerful. Parker looked down at the speeding van. Turn right, 20 direction. By the way, how do you know it's the Russian Mafia? Speaking of which, the person who just drove us away seemed to have a Russian accent. Boom. A loud noise came from the receiver, and then Lazai's voice continued to sound. I turned too fast and stepped on the trash can on the side of the road. I know their identities because I be those two people. Parker braked suddenly and almost fell off the roof. Zion, you are Benu bird who you don't stop. Where are they? On 20 road, go straight. Parker continued to chase, but he was still shocked that he thought Lazai was Huiyu. You are right, although the name is a bit difficult to pronounce, it is indeed me. You know, you need a name and identity to cover up this kind of thing. Lazai never wanted to hide it from Parker from the beginning. For any superhero, loneliness is a terrible opponent. If the road of hero is destined to be a lonely journey, then you can only bear the doubts and ridicules on the road. Maybe you will say, so what? Even if you are covered with wounds, you have to live beautifully. Haha, living like a lonely star like Spider-Man. Parker is beautiful. The road of hero is destined to be a teamwork, a process of clenching fists with like-minded friends and comrades to fight against evil together. Otherwise, why would there be the Avengers? The era of heroes fighting alone is over. In the near future, when aliens invade, when the army of intelligent machines rises, and when the world-destroying purple potatoes come, even if Lazai becomes a golden saint who has realized the eighth sense, he dare not say that he can win, because the duty of the saint is to protect, not to destroy. It is very simple to destroy the enemy, once the light-speed punch goes over, let alone aliens, the army of Ultron. The whole Earth may be blown up, but if you want to protect the Earth, you must restrain your destructive power and unite more people who can be united. Simply put, Lazai needs a team. He had this plan since the first day he knew he had traveled to the Marvel world. The name was tentatively set as Zodiac Guardian, and the duty was naturally to protect the Earth. Parker, Thompson, and Jessica Campbell were all members of his team, and there would be more in the future. Peter Parker's classmates alone were so strong that you couldn't understand. Teaching Parker and Thompson Ukinar dance was also for this purpose. Hearing Lazai's admission, Parker didn't know why he didn't have much rejection in his heart but was yearning for it. Parker's idol is Captain America. He has longed to be able to charge into battle on the battlefield like Captain America since he was a child and beat the enemy to a pulp. But now is a peaceful era, and there are not so many wars for him to realize his ambitions. But now is also good, since this city is full of evil and darkness. Then he will become a walker in the steel jungle and start by protecting the order of this city. Benu bird Huiyu, can I join you? Parker was full of enthusiasm. Of course, it's an honor. Lazai's mouth curled up slightly. Welcome to join, Spider-Man. The two talked, but they didn't stop walking. Half an hour later, they followed the van to an abandoned factory. When the van looked into the factory, the two met in the distance and carefully checked the surrounding situation. Let's find out the situation first. Don't act rashly. Lightning is right. These gangsters all have guns. Lazai pulled Parker and warned, with our current strength, we may not be able to completely avoid the attack of bullets, so it's better to be careful. Parker nodded, his face a little red. I don't know if it was because of running or excitement. On a high tower a few hundred meters away, a short-haired man was looking over here with a night vision telescope. After the van entered the factory, the figures of Lazai and Parker entered the short-haired man's sight. Pinching his collar, the short-haired man whispered into the microphone, "Miss Rushman, 2 unidentified people have followed us outside the factory. Do you need me to tactically repel them?" "No. Let Jimmy go and contact them to see who they are." A low and hoarse voice came from the other side. After the short-haired man responded, he continued to spy with a telescope like a wretched man. "Jimmy, the target is at your 9 o'clock direction, 100 meters away. There are 2 people. They have insufficient experience in tracking and anti-tracking. They should not be trained people, but one of them has good speed and bounds. You have to be careful." Received. The sound of opening and closing the car door came from the headset. Lazai and Parker were planning to find a suitable direction separately and sneak into the factory to check the situation. Suddenly, Parker's ears moved and gently pulled Lazai in. "There is someone behind." "Jimmy, you have been discovered." "Correction. They seem to have some anti-tracking means. The danger level has increased. Be careful." Jimmy tapped the headset to indicate that he knew, then pulled out a pistol with a silencer and slowly moved towards the 2 people. "What should we do?" Parker asked Lazai in a low voice. This was also the first time Lazai encountered such a situation and he lacked experience in dealing with such things. The identity of the man who approached him was unknown, so he couldn't kill him without scruples like he did with the Mafia. But if the other party was really a member of the Mafia, they would be in danger if they contacted him rashly. There was no other way. No matter who the other party was, they had to knock him out first. Thank you book friend 201702131743394425 for the reward. Thank you all for your recommendation votes. Praise your generosity. This is the 3rd update today, and there will be another chapter later. Chapter 17, An Arrow from the West. According to the distance given by the short-haired man, Jimmy quietly stopped when he was about to touch Lazai and the other person. He tapped the microphone on his collar a few times, and the short-haired man's voice immediately sounded from the other side. "Neither of them left, but it is certain that you have been discovered. Now I give you 2 suggestions, attack or cooperate. I personally suggest you choose the second one. The 2 of them can chase all the way here. They are obviously not ordinary people. I think your chances of winning are not great if you face both of them at the same time." Hearing what the short-haired man said, Jimmy stood up and walked into the moonlight, whispering, "Friend, if you don't mind, we can talk." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw 2 black shadows jumping out of the darkness in the distance. They were so fast that Jimmy had no time to react. In a hurry, Jimmy did not panic. Relying on years of experience, he calmly raised his gun and pulled the trigger at one of them. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the pistol with a silencer did not spread far, and the bullet swirled out, but failed to hit the target. The enemy can predict the direction of the bullet. Jimmy figured it out in an instant, but he didn't give up the intention of shooting. He held the butt of the gun tightly with both hands and slowly adjusted his breathing, because he knew that he was not fighting alone. Even if he couldn't hit the opponent because of the prediction, his teammates would help him create opportunities to shoot and hit. After Lazai made the decision to knock out the stalker, he didn't hesitate. After a brief exchange with Parker, the 2 of them suddenly attacked when the stalker approached. The stalker actually had a gun in his hand and fired without hesitation. This was somewhat beyond Lazai's expectations, but it was also reasonable. Relying on the experience taught by the Holy Suitcase, Lazai quickly judged the direction of Jimmy's bullet through his movements, and relied on his powerful explosive power to avoid the bullet. After the gunshot, Lazai also strengthened his determination to take down the stalker. This person fired the gun very decisively, and he could still maintain a calm attitude at this moment. He was definitely not an ordinary person. Turning around and running away would definitely not work, and he would definitely be suppressed and beaten. Lazai had never thought of chatting with the other party from the beginning. He and Parker were just 2 high school students without any negotiation experience. As long as the other party wanted to, they could guess their information based on their responses in just a few words. If he wanted to avoid exposing himself, the only way left was to fight hard. After dodging a few bullets, just when he was about to rush to the man and control him, Lazia suddenly felt that the natural air around him was a little abnormal, like a person trembling. Lazia didn't know what Parker's spider sense felt when it sensed danger, but he was sure that this was the natural air warning him. Without time to think about it, Lazia stopped suddenly and his body suddenly stopped. In a flash, at the moment Lazia stopped, a black shadow whizzed past his eyes and shot into the concrete wall next to him. Lazia didn't have time to see what the black shadow was. Jimmy in front of him had pulled the trigger again, and the natural air also issued a trembling alarm again. Lazia didn't know that before they launched the attack, the short-haired man had already agreed with Jimmy that if a fight broke out, Lazia would be the focus of the attack. Because the short-haired man commented that Parker had a speed and bounce beyond that of a normal person, and was relatively difficult to deal with, they would first take down the weaker Lazia in order to make Parker afraid to act trashly. Jimmy's finger was already pulling the trigger, and a black shadow was rushing in the distance, blocking Lazia's forward space, and if he retreated, he would be hit head-on by the hot bullet. All this happened too quickly, and Parker was powerless to do anything about it. Even if he could quickly rush to Jimmy's side and knock his pistol away, it would be too late. A gun and a flying black shadow, with the exquisite cooperation of the two, Lazia was immediately trapped in a dead end. At the critical moment, a red flame suddenly appeared on Lazia's body. The moment the flame appeared, Lazia's speed suddenly increased, and the speed of rushing forward suddenly accelerated. The black shadow almost brushed his back. The strong wind tore his shirt in an instant, revealing the Suzaku back pattern on his back. Naturally, all of Jimmy's bullets hit the empty space. Parker finally rushed in front of Jimmy, knocked the pistol out of his hand, and punched him in the face with his other hand. After Jimmy fired, he didn't even look at the result, and then dodged to the side. Parker's powerful punch hit the air, and his body inevitably stagnated for a while. After dodging Parker's attack, Jimmy did not retreat, but flashed forward to attack. Parker's hasty attack exposed his weakness of insufficient fighting skills. Jimmy naturally didn't let him go. Even though he didn't have the advantage in speed, he didn't necessarily have no strength to fight. Parker paid the price for his youth. Although he learned some things from Lazia, he could not remember to use them at all. He could only throw a bunch of cuckold punches randomly. Jimmy stepped forward and threw a left hook, then a right hook. The combination of attacks made Parker lose his temper. Lazia knew the situation behind him, but he did not intend to help. Although he taught Parker some things cannot be achieved overnight. To grow into a real Spider-Man, Parker still needs to walk the road by himself. Without Jimmy's threat, Lazia finally faced the threat in the distance. When another black shadow flew over, he stretched out his hand, attached to the palm of the red flame, and grabbed it directly. Before the Suzaku back pattern appeared, he might not be able to keep up with the speed of the black shadow, but now that his shirt was exposed, he could clearly see the trajectory of the black shadow. Clang! The black shadow was grabbed by Lazia. It was a long black arrow, and the tail of the arrow was shaking violently unwillingly. Lazia glanced at the long arrow in his hand, and his eyebrows jumped. This arrow made of metal looked familiar, and what surprised him even more was that the front end of the arrow was bare without an arrowhead. He carefully recalled the attack positions of the long arrows and bullets before, and it seemed that they all deliberately avoided the vital positions. Obviously, the opponent did not try his best, whether he wanted to let him go or did not want to be discovered. Anyway, he, Benyu Bird Huiyuo, was looked down upon by others. Thinking of this, Lazia said, "Lao Li, stop it." Parker was stunned. Didn't they agree to call him Spider-Man? What did Lao Li mean? Retreating to Lazia's side, Parker was a little embarrassed. "I was careless just now, but don't worry, I have found the trick, and I will be able to turn defeat into victory soon." Jimmy shook his numb arms and sneered, "You think too much. I haven't tried my best yet." Lazia raised the black arrow in his hand. "If the other party hadn't held back, you would have been dead long ago." Jimmy raised his chin in dissatisfaction. "You can try." Lazia nodded in understanding. "We were reckless today. Since you're here, we will leave." After saying that, he took Parker, who didn't understand the situation, and turned away. Thank you Zhang Da Chong for the reward. Thank you friends in the Next Door creation. Thank you for your support. Chapter 18 Returning with Failure. After walking a few blocks and feeling that the other party had not caught up, Parker could not help but speak. Are we just going to leave like this? I was not kidding just now. I can really beat that man. I just haven't integrated what you taught me yet. Seeing Lazia lowered her head and didn't speak, Parker's voice also became smaller. The two walked another block in silence, and Lazia finally spoke. We lost this time, and losing is losing. There is nothing to be embarrassed about admitting. Seeing that Parker was a little unconvinced, Lazia reluctantly handed the black arrow in his hand to him. Parker reached out to take it, but saw that the veins on Lazia's hand holding the black arrow were exposed. What's abnormal about this arrow? Parker was suddenly shocked. There is no arrowhead on the arrow? Lazia's voice was very deep. The archer never thought of killing us from the beginning, so he didn't install an arrowhead. Otherwise, Parker recalled the scene just now. He retorted somewhat unconvinced. Even if there was an arrowhead, you could still dodge it. I saw you dodged it with ease just now. By the way, why did flames appear on your body later? Was it from practicing your 1,000 people dance? And the pattern you mentioned to that person at the end, is he the archer? Do you know him? Why do you have so many questions? Lazia shook his head. The firelight is the result of practicing your 1,000 people dance. In order to urge Parker to learn close combat well, Lazia lied very tastelessly. Well, a white lie. Seeing Parker's yearning look, Lazia continued, as for the archer, if I'm not mistaken, he should be a master archer who never misses. Among the archers in the Marvel world, Hawkeye Barton is the most famous one. The headless black arrow just now is almost exactly the same as the one in the movie, so Lazia has reason to conclude that this person is 99% Hawkeye. Hawkeye's setting is that he can shoot through the target every time, and his arrows are said to have nearly 30 different functions. If he really uses the arrows and does something with them, the two of us will kneel there tonight. Parker scratched his head. Is it so powerful? It's not an exaggeration. Lazia looked at Parker solemnly. Peter, there is one thing you have to remember. Maybe you can sense danger in advance, so you don't care much about this kind of master archer, but I advise you, if you meet someone in the future, you must be careful of him. His name is Hawkeye. This is not an exaggeration. It is not unreasonable that Hawkeye can gain a foothold in the Avengers as the only ordinary person. Not to mention that he can hit the target every time. There are nearly 30 kinds of arrows. Not only do they need to be sorted and organized for easy use, but also the arrows with relevant functions need to be correctly selected according to different situations. Just this point alone, even Iron Man without the assistance of Jarvis may not be able to handle it. Let me give you an example to prove Hawkeye's strength. In Marvel's official ability value, Hawkeye's combat skills are the highest value of 7. As for the other people in the Avengers, the strongest Thor is 6, the most beautiful Black Widow is 6, the 50-50 Captain is 6, the cheating Hulk is only 5, and the genius Iron Man, haha, is only 3. Isn't this enough to explain the problem? So, in this battle, Lazia and Parker are not complaining about losing. Seeing Lazia's serious words, Parker had to nod. Hawkeye, right? I'll remember that. Then what should we do about this? Should we just let it go? They definitely caught more than just the one we saw in the car. Should we just leave them alone? Lazia shook her head. Of course we can't just leave it alone, but with our current capabilities, we can't do anything about it. Looking back at the thick night, Lazia was a little confused. Hawkeye Clint Barton was a senior agent of SHIELD. Before Iron Man appeared, SHIELD had already turned to underground work. Hawkeye should have been carrying out secret missions around the world with Black Widow Natasha during this period. Why did he come here to watch over a gangster gang? Is there any other hidden secret in this kidnapping case? Or is it like what Gwen's father said in The Amazing Spider-Man that they let a car thief commit crimes everywhere in order to catch the big fish and catch their boss? So who is the big fish behind this Russian mafia? It can't be the Russian Federal Security Service FSB or something. Lazia vaguely remembered that in the American TV series Daredevil in his previous life, The Russian mafia seemed to appear. I don't know if it is the same group of people, but the Russian mafia in Daredevil is behind the bald-faced Kingpin. Does S.H.I.E.L.D. want to deal with Kingpin? No, that's not right. The plot of Daredevil is after the New York War. It must be several years away from now. Kingpin is still alive and well by then, which proves that S.H.I.E.L.D. has never dealt with Kingpin. Then the question is back. Is the Russian mafia that he is facing not the Russian mafia? Or did the Russian brothers have other backers before joining Kingpin? And this backer is likely to be the FSB. This guy just wanted to be a hero and save a few fallen women in distress. But why does he feel like he is trapped in a huge vortex? But as Lazia said to Parker, he will not ignore this matter. The police department will let the car thief commit crimes in order to catch a bigger criminal, and S.H.I.E.L.D. will sit back and watch the mafia kidnap and traffic women for the sake of American homeland security. You are all right. However, in my eyes, the homeland security of the United States has nothing to do with me, but kidnapping and trafficking in front of me must be punished. Homeland security? In the United States, even personal safety cannot be guaranteed, so what is homeland security? Suddenly, the headlights of a silver pickup truck lit up in the distance, shining on Lazia and Parker's faces. The two were about to hide in the darkness when they saw a figure sticking out of the car window. Zia, Peter, I'm here. Lightning? Lazia and Parker looked over and found that the man was Thompson. You are here. Thompson opened the door and got out of the car. I drove Uncle Lee's car here. Uncle told you not to worry about things here. Get in the car quickly, and I will take you home. When did Uncle get such a car? Lazia opened the car door and asked casually. Uncle said that he plans to drive this car to the charming wonderland of New Mexico for a self-driving tour next year. After the two got in the car, Thompson started the car and turned around. Uncle is in a good mood, Lazia replied casually, and then lay back on the seat with a dull look, staring blankly at the scenery outside the window. Parker was thinking about Hawkeye and had no interest in talking. Only Thompson kept talking while driving. Uncle said that someone will naturally deal with this matter, so you can rest assured. I tell you, you really missed out if you didn't see that club. The women there really don't wear clothes. TSK, that guy. For specific pictures, please refer to Deadpool 2 Uncut version. Thank you Guanzin for the reward. Thank you Cute Superman Can't Fly for the 588 reward. Thank you Ziner and Emperor Siegfried Kazlana Ruthless Biapel for the reward. Thank you all for your support. Thank you. Chapter 19, Reloaded. When they returned to the orphanage, it was already midnight. As expected, Grandma Joan was sitting in the hall waiting. Why are you back so late? Joan asked with a fierce face. I went out with Uncle Lee to broaden my horizons. It's okay, Grandma. Lazia directly used Uncle Lee as a shield. Don't hang out with that old guy. Be careful not to be led astray by him. Joan stood up. By the way, don't go out tomorrow. Miss Potts from Stark Industries is coming to pick up Clarice. You can send her off for me then. Okay. Grandma Joan was old and couldn't bear the pain of separation. Lazia didn't refuse. After sending Joan back to the house, Lazia went back to her room and called Parker directly. Hey, did Uncle Ben scold you? It's okay, I handled it. I've opened the browser page for what you told me about improving my strength through equipment. Lazia recalled the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man and said uncertainly, I seem to have seen in the news that the Osborn Group has developed a technology that can store a long length of cable in a very small volume. You can check it out. Since you're Spider-Man, it would be too unworthy of the name if you can't spit silk and spray webs like a spider. Okay, let me take a look. Hey, there really is a tensile-strength biological cable. A small ball can hold hundreds of meters of it. I can use this to make a spider silk launcher. Then I can fly over eaves and walls. Well, this idea is great. I'll do it now. After dealing with Parker, Lazia hung up the phone, dragged out the Holy Clothes box, and began to think about his future. As a reserve Saint Seiya, Lazia has only one way to become stronger, that is to comprehend the microcosm, put on the Holy Clothes, and become a real Saint Seiya. But the current situation is that he has not yet reached the standard of becoming a Saint Seiya, and he doesn't know how to take the holy clothes out of the holy clothes box. So if he wants to improve his strength to a level that is enough to compete with Hawkeye in a short period of time, he can only think of another way. Since there is no saint cloth, then he had to settle for the next best thing and choose the black cloth. When practicing the 10,000 things to the highest level, the chi in the body can be materialized, forming a black cloth on the body surface with the same defensive power as the saint cloth. However, compared with the saint cloth, the defensive power of the black cloth is a bit of a joke, and it is simply useless in front of the saint Seiya, who has the ability to destroy matter at the atomic level. Originally, Zodiac didn't want to get this flashy black cloth, which was a waste of time and energy. But for him now, the black cloth is a rare piece of defense. Although it is not as good as the saint cloth, it should be no problem to withstand a wave of black arrows from Hawkeye. When sitting cross-legged on the saint cloth box, Zodiac made a decision that as long as he didn't die on it tonight, he would not take the initiative to come down. He swore that he would never let anyone point an arrow at his head again. With the determination to die, Zodiac persisted on the saint cloth box for a full hour, which was twice as long as the half an hour the night before, until the end, when he almost fainted due to extreme discomfort. The holy suitcase automatically cut off his training. Fortunately, otherwise, he would have likely become a time traveler who practiced himself to death. Zodiac, who was on the verge of collapse, subconsciously began to practice the all-seeing after the small universe in the holy suitcase stopped. The feeling of 10 times the high C surged through his body, and he was instantly high. When the all-seeing stopped, Zodiac opened his eyes, and 2 flames of more than 10 centimeters long emerged from his eyes. The flames immediately began to spread to his body, and the tattered shirt was torn off, and the golden red Suzaku back pattern appeared on his back. Then, the flames suddenly roused, submerging Zodiac's whole body. 5 seconds later, the flames dissipated, and he was already wearing a black combat suit. The Suzaku's black clothes appear. The black robe is black. The coverage of the Suzaku black robe even exceeds that of the silver cloth, and is almost equal to that of the gold cloth. Not only that, there is also a pair of black wings on the back. Looking at himself in the mirror wearing the Suzaku black robe, Zodiac had a moment of vaguely seeming to see the real Sky Violent Star Hades warrior, Benyu Bird Huiyuo, at least 70% similar, but in terms of shape, the lines of the Suzaku black robe are slightly smoother than those of the Hades, and it looks less aggressive. As Zodiac's consciousness moved, the black wings behind him suddenly opened, and with a gentle flap, Zodiac's legs gradually left the ground. Well, it's more and more like Huiyuo, Zodiac said to himself, and the black helmet pressed down the bangs on his forehead, covering half of his face. Since I borrowed Huiyuo's name, I'll do something that Benyu Bird should do. I want the lives of these Russian mafia guys. A gust of black wind flashed by, and Zodiac and the room disappeared. Outside the abandoned factory, Barton changed his surveillance location. Although Zodiac and the other 2 had already retreated, as an agent, he could not stay in an exposed position for too long, so changing positions was necessary. Jimmy returned to the car and discussed what had just happened with Barton through the communicator. "Who are those 2? Jimmy said with some fear. Although the guy who fought with me had little experience, his speed was so fast that I could hardly keep up with him, and his body was as hard as a rock. He didn't react much when I hit him, but my hands were numb from the shock." Barton used a telescope to observe the surroundings in the new position. "I'm not sure, but he should not be a normal human. There are files about abnormal humans in the shield's data, and my level is not high enough to access them. Miss Romanoff is the same level as you, 7th level. If you don't know, then I don't know." Jimmy tapped the steering wheel with his fingers regretfully. "However, after this mission, you will be able to upgrade your level, and then you may be able to access relevant information. Don't be too happy too soon," Patton said mercilessly. "Even if we get to know it, we can't tell you because you are not at a high enough level." "Wait, what is that?" Jimmy looked up at the sky, which was dark and he could not see anything. But in Patton's telescope, he clearly saw a large flying object flying towards him at a high speed. The flying object was flying very fast, probably about 700 to 800 kilometers per hour, and among the known birds, The fastest flying peregrine falcon can't fly more than 400 kilometers per hour. WTF, is this an angel? The flying object gradually approached, and Patton could roughly see its outline. It was a humanoid object flapping its wings. Winged aircraft are fixed-wing and rely on thrusters to provide power to fly, while this humanoid object flies by flapping its wings. Obviously, his flying ability is his own, not relying on equipment. When the black humanoid object flew over the abandoned factory building and flapped its wings to hover, Patton was more convinced of this. Knocking on the microphone, Patton whispered, "Nat, I think we are in trouble." The second extra chapter for the helmsman Yi. The salty thing you want is here. Thank you for the reward. Chapter 20, Flame Demon. Because the distance was enough, Barton could clearly see every detail of Zodiac through the telescope, except for his face covered by a mask. Because the black clothes were the embodiment of his own chi, Zodiac could change its appearance to a certain extent, such as extending a mask from the helmet to cover the face. This can also be regarded as the tradition of superheroes. Since they have flown here so coolly, it would be a bit unreasonable not to do something big. If the scene is big, hiding the identity can naturally save a lot of trouble. As for Hawkeye, Zodiac wanted to ask for advice this time, thanking him for showing mercy just now. There are no mechanical devices on his body, and the possibility of exoskeleton armor is ruled out. Barton was still observing and introducing to the other end of the microphone. This is completely contrary to scientific common sense. His wings are like growing on his back. Although I don't want to admit it, this is very likely a Birdman. Birdman? Francis, are you sure you are not hallucinating? In the factory, the short-haired woman was sitting with the Lankoff brothers. After hearing what Barton said, she couldn't help asking. Seeing this, the Lankoff brothers opposite asked curiously, "Miss Rushman, what Birdman are you talking about?" "Oh, I mean, you can see for yourself." Rushman was about to explain when a bright fire suddenly lit up outside the window. In the firelight, a black Birdman was flashing its wings domineeringly. This factory is the headquarters of the Russian mafia. Hundreds of gang members are gathered here at this time. They naturally saw the commotion made by Zodiac. Seeing the appearance of the Birdman, almost everyone felt a sense of crisis. Needless to say, everyone came out of the house with weapons in their arms. On the stairs and in the windows, there were gangsters holding long and short guns everywhere. As the leaders, Vladimir and Anatoly would naturally not blindly intervene. The younger brothers would do the work for them. Chechen, the so-called third person in the Russian mafia, took on this responsibility. Standing at the gate of the factory, Chechen looked up and shouted, "Who are you? Are you a human or a ghost? What do you want to do here in the middle of the night?" Zodiac lowered his head, looking down at everyone and clearly seeing their expressions and actions. These gang members holding guns had firm eyes, and they were not afraid of seeing a strange thing that was different from what they had known before. Their eyes flickered with excitement. As long as Chechen gave an order, their bullets would shoot at Zodiac in the air without hesitation. They are a bunch of low-class gangs. They are a group of brutal bandits who take human lives lightly. After a moment of silence, Zodiac spoke in a deep voice. Because of the mask, his voice was completely distorted and far from the original voice, so there was no need to worry about being exposed. "I am the new bird Huiyu. I came here to lead the sinful souls to the underworld. And you," after a pause, Zodiac emphasized his tone, "are you ready to go to the underworld?" Sinners. Hearing this somewhat childish line, the people below instantly exploded. Some were disdainful, some were crazy, and some were cursing. The meaning was roughly the same. "I don't know where this idiot came from. We have so many guns, and one bullet from each of us is enough to send you to heaven. If you like the underworld so much, just go by yourself." Chechen sneered. Although he didn't know what the armor and fire of the men in the air were, he was confident in his armed forces. He raised his hand, and his brothers stopped talking. Everyone pointed their guns at Zodiac in the air. "Idiot, you want to show off? You've come to the wrong place. This is New York, not the countryside where you show off. Go to the underworld and regret your stupidity." Fire. In just a moment, hundreds of weapons fired at the same time. The sound of gunfire shook the sky, and countless bullets formed a dense barrage that instantly drowned Lazai. Barton sighed behind the telescope. If you want to punish evil, you have to pay attention to the method and do it within your ability. If you rush over so carelessly, you will be easily focused on by others. It's hard to survive. Jimmy's voice came from the headset. Yeah, I didn't expect the Lankov brothers to have so much firepower. Now even if you say that there is no one behind them, I don't believe it. What a pity. Barton put down the telescope and looked up at the fireball in the distance. He is also a man with a sense of justice. It would be great if he could be brought into the bureau. Unfortunately, he is going to die here. Not necessarily, Rushman said concisely. As soon as she finished speaking, the barrage over there stopped. A ball of fire was burning in the air, but it didn't mean to fall. Chechen swallowed his saliva with an unsightly expression, stretched his hand back, and his younger brother delivered an RPG rocket launcher. I don't believe you are more durable than the T-90. After saying that, Chechen pulled the trigger of the RPG without hesitation, and a grenade with a flash of fire flew towards the fireball with a bang. Just when the grenade rushed in front of the fireball suddenly exploded, and a black figure jumped out of the flames and rushed down, almost brushing past the grenade. Boom! The grenade exploded in the air, and the black figure had already rushed to the ground. The gang members who came to their senses began to change magazines in a hurry, but the black figure did not give them a chance at all. He was like a black whirlwind, shuttling back and forth in the crowd. Wherever he passed, the gang members seemed to be hit by a moving vehicle, and they turned into gourds rolling on the ground. The sound of bones breaking came from their chests, and blood instantly dyed their bodies red. After an hour of suffering on the holy clothes box, Lazai's strength increased again. With the blessing of Mo Yi, now he punched with a force of more than 500 kilograms. Such a heavy fist, wearing Mo Yi's hard gloves, can make a hole in the concrete wall, let alone a human sternum. Chechen fell down with a rocket launcher, his eyes full of disbelief. More than 100 guns can't kill him. Is this guy a ghost? Sweeping through the crowd like a whirlwind, Lazai flapped his wings and hovered outside the window on the 3rd floor. At this time, he was covered with blood, some from gang members and some from himself. Mo Yi's defense is not as good as the real holy clothes, and it is made of natural energy. Although it can defend against certain bullet attacks, if the attacks are too intensive, the broken parts cannot be completely repaired in time, so he will inevitably have some scratches on his body, but most of them are skin injuries. The light in the window is bright, and there are 3 people standing by the window, 2 men and 1 woman, who are the Lankov brothers and Rushman. Seeing the woman, Lazai's eyes flashed. Chapter 21, Do It with Hawkeye. Short red hair, fair skin, a pair of charming eyes, a beautiful nose and pink lips. Looking at her figure, the white shirt has 3 buttons open. 3. I don't know if it is buttoned or not. The deep cleavage that can't be seen at a glance. Puff. Lazai quickly retracted his gaze. If he looked again, the blood from his wound would not be able to stop. With just one glance, Lazai recognized the identity of this woman from those 2 hemispheres. The Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff, a female spy who looks fresh and delicious, but actually hides deadly danger. By the way, Black Widow is over 80 years old. Even through the glass, Lazai can feel the explosive power from her round thighs and tight pants. I don't know if Mo Yi's defense can prevent her pinch. The 2 men next to them, since Black Widow can touch them personally, they must be the leaders of the Russian mafia. The 2 look very similar to the Lankov brothers in the American TV series Daredevil in Lazai's memory. It seems that they are the ones who have no chance. The moment he saw the 2 men, Lazai sentenced them to death, no matter what they were imprisoned for in Russia. The murders and escapes, as well as the murders, drug trafficking, and trafficking of women they committed in New York, were enough to make them die 100 times. He clenched his fist slowly, and the red flames burned again, with the blood on his body and the broken black wings waving behind him. Lazai looked like a hell angel walking out of a pool of blood. The Russian brothers panicked. They were not panicked when they were on death row, and they were not panicked when they came to New York to fight with other gangs, but when they saw Lazai, who was like a hell angel, they finally felt an invincible fear in their hearts. He raised his fist with flames, and with a slight wave forward, he could take away 2 sinful lives. At this moment, the natural energy behind him suddenly became violent. Laziah moved aside as if he had sensed something, and a black arrow flew over. For Laziah now, the speed of the black arrow is nothing. As long as he wants, he can rush to Hawkeye's front without any injury in the face of the arrow rain. Of course, the premise is that these black arrows are ordinary arrowheads. After seeing Laziah's killing spree with his own eyes, Barton would never want to shoot him with black arrows without arrowheads like he did with him and Parker before. Ordinary arrows will not be used again. The flying black arrow nailed firmly on the window frame with a snap, and a small red light on the arrowhead lit up quickly. Seeing this, Laziah quickly stretched his wings in front of him to block his face. Whoosh! After the small light on the arrow flashed, it exploded with a bang, and the fierce flames instantly covered the entire window. As the flames burned fiercely, the glass on the window exploded and shattered. When the flames and glass fell to the ground, there were no figures of the 3 people in the room. Fuck! Laziah cursed fiercely, and with a wave of his wings, he drilled into the window. Whoosh! Another black arrow flew over Laziah, and the arrowhead exploded in front of the window, splitting into 7 or 8 arrows that were nailed to the wall next to the window. After the 7 or 8 small arrows landed, blue electricity burst out from them, instantly forming a net formed by electricity on the window, blocking the window tightly. If Laziah continued to move forward, he would inevitably hit the electric grid. The defense of the electric grid might not be great, but it could slow down Laziah's movements through the electric current. When fighting against a shooter, if you want to avoid being kited, you must ensure your flexibility in movement. Once you're slowed down, you can only become a passive target. Laziah stopped moving. He knew that tonight, he could not do anything to the Russian brothers. After being delayed by the electric grid, Black Widow and the Russian brothers had already run away to who knows where. Looking back, Laziah's eyes looked at Patton on the roof of a building in the distance across a distance of several hundred meters. Being blocked by Patton again and again, even if Laziah had a good temper, he could not suppress his anger. With a flap of his wings, Laziah turned into a black light and rushed towards Patton. Nat, I'm being targeted. He's very fast. I can only delay him for less than 5 minutes. Hurry up. Patton spoke into the microphone while his hands kept moving. Black arrows were shot out at high speed as if they were free. Laziah had not rushed forward for more than 20 meters when a black arrow flew over and exploded into a huge black net from a distance, covering Laziah's head. Laziah was not sure if his flames and strength could break through the net, so he dodged to the side the moment the black net appeared. Before Laziah could stabilize his body, another black arrow flew over and exploded in front of him, exploding into a ball of smoke and covering him. Laziah held his breath and rushed sideways out of the smoke. Another black arrow exploded beside him, and the liquid gas on the arrowhead instantly vaporized. The rapidly dropping temperature almost froze his left leg. The damage caused by the freezing arrows was not serious. The flames on Laziah's body flashed and healed the injury on his leg. However, the momentary delay caused by it brought Laziah a lot of trouble. The next 3 minutes were completely transformed into Hawkeye's fancy arrow display. Flame arrows that can explode into flames, blasting arrows that can produce violent explosions, sticky arrows that can stick to people and affect their movements, and electric shock arrows that can emit electric currents. Laziah was beaten to the point of doubting his life. Is Hawkeye in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so powerful? Why does it feel like he has no problem fighting Loki alone with these arrows? According to this situation, what's the point of fighting the Battle of New York? Patton directly shot Loki in the face in a fancy way at the U.S. military base, and the public screen typed GG. The Avengers 1 can end in 6 minutes. 3 minutes later, Patton's offensive stopped, and Laziah also stopped on the roof of a building a few dozen meters away from him, panting. Mo Yi's wings had been smashed, and the armor on his upper body was also torn. Laziah was bleeding all over, and it looked like he might fall down at any time. Patton bent his bow and put an arrow on it, holding the arrow feathers in his hand, and said loudly, "You are already very good. Considering that you killed people who deserved to die, I will let you go today. Leave quickly." Laziah raised her head, and liquid dripped from the ends of her hair. She didn't know whether it was blood or sweat. "I despise your condescending attitude the most. Since you know they deserve to die, why do you still protect them? You don't understand." "Yes, I don't understand, and I don't want to understand," Lazai interrupted Patton's defense. "I only know that they killed people, trafficked drugs, and kidnapped women, causing countless families to be broken up. Since they deserve to die, I will send them to death." Patton tightened his fingers holding the arrow feathers. "Your thoughts are very dangerous. This world is not what you think." Lazai closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The natural air around her suddenly rioted. "I can see what this world is like with my own eyes. I don't need you to teach me." As soon as the words fell, Lazai opened his eyes suddenly, and the tattered black clothes on his body exploded into pieces, revealing his strong chest muscles and beautiful mermaid lines. On his smooth back, the back pattern of the vermilion bird was clearly visible. "If you want me to agree with your point of view, come and take this move of mine first." Lazai clenched his fists at his waist, and the vermilion bird on his back slowly rose into the air with red flames, and hung above his head. Barton was stunned. How could this be human power? This guy couldn't really be. Lazai's momentum finally reached its peak, and a huge force burst out from his body. Lushan Phoenix flying. "Thank you Yizixi for the reward. Thank you all for your support." Thank you. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Phoenix dances in the sky. With a loud phoenix cry, the huge firebird formed by flames rushed towards Patton with unparalleled momentum. WTF. Just one look, Patton knew that he couldn't afford to offend this firebird. In a flash, the firebird rushed in front of Patton. When he saw that he could no longer avoid the impact of the firebird, Patton didn't care about so much and directly detonated the explosive arrow on the bow. With a loud bang, the heat burned Patton's arm, and the air wave lifted him off. The armor on his body resisted some of the damage from the explosion, but the shockwave generated by the explosion shook his internal organs and his mind was in a trance. However, he used this to avoid the impact range of the firebird. The firebird really didn't turn as he imagined. Patton was not wrong. The firebird really couldn't turn. After the firebird rushed over, it broke through the explosion range of the explosive arrow with great momentum, and the explosion didn't stop the firebird at all. However, because of Barton's departure, the firebird had no target to attack, so it vented all its destructive power on the roof of the building in front of it. The moment the firebird touched the roof, the reinforced concrete roof was broken into pieces like tofu dregs, and the residue flew far away with sparks. The firebird flew into the air, and the fire gradually dissipated. In the center of the flames, Lazai's blood-stained figure was revealed. Lushan Feng Fixian. From the name, you can tell that it is a pirated version of Lushan Long Fixian. Long Fixian is different from the energy wave attack method of Sheng Longba and Bai Longba. It is a method of fighting that uses the explosion of the microcosm, uses the body's forward movement as power, and pierces the enemy's formation with fists. Lazai has not yet comprehended the microcosm, and does not have his own constellation armor. In theory, it is impossible for him to use the Saint Seiya tactics. Just now, he just used the natural energy in his body to overdraw, forming an explosion behind him, and pushing himself forward quickly, imitating the appearance of Lushan Long Fixian. It is appropriate to call this move Lushan Feng Fixian, which uses phoenix-shaped flames to perform Long Fixian's moves. At this time, Lazai was half kneeling on the ground. The consequence of forcibly imitating the fighting methods of the Saint Seiya without the microcosm was that he felt as if every pore in his body had been ripped through, and every muscle and bone in his body was trembling and screaming. Fortunately, when he was training on the Holy Cloth Box, he had already experienced such pain. Otherwise, he would have peed all over the ground now. Thinking about it carefully, it makes sense that the Saint Seiya candidates in the sanctuary train so hard every day. The battles of the Saint Seiya are always bloody. Only by adapting the body to the feeling of extreme pain can one avoid mental collapse due to serious physical injuries in the cruel battle. The bug of the Saint Seiya is that as long as the spirit is not extinguished, he can continue to fight. But speaking of it, there was a moment just now when Lazia seemed to feel the existence of the microcosm, as if a seed was about to sprout in the deepest part of his body. Unfortunately, the feeling was fleeting and he regretted not catching it. Despite this, Lazia was also a little excited. The childhood dream is getting closer and closer. The small universe seems to be calling from the front. Brave young man, go and create miracles. Ahem. Very powerful. Patton was lying not far away, coughing up a mouthful of blood. This is the first time I've seen a human being launch such a powerful attack. Is it the credit of your armor? Patton propped himself up and sat up, leaning on the low wall beside the rooftop. You are one of the two people who followed their car here just now. Although you have changed your clothes, I remember the tattoo on your back, the phoenix reborn from the ashes. That vivid image is really hard to forget. Lazia kept the posture of landing without moving, nor did he reply. Only blood beads dripped down his hair. Let me guess. Barton continued to talk to himself when he saw this. Your ability just now came from this armor-like equipment, right? Is it the mythical armor handed down from ancient times in the East? I didn't expect it to have such magical abilities. You are much stronger than before you put on the armor. However, wearing this armor should have side effects. Is it a big load on the body? Can you still swing your fist now? Humphrey, self-righteous ... hiss. Lazia moved his arm slightly, and the slightly relieved pain immediately spread all over his body again, causing his sphincter to almost collapse. Barton smiled. Sure enough, I guessed it right. I am the final winner tonight. Did you hear it? Barton stopped talking, and the air became quiet. Lazia keenly heard the heavy footsteps coming from the stairs of the building below him. The footsteps came from far away and approached. I believe it will reach the rooftop soon, before your reinforcements arrive. I have plenty of time to kill you. Lazia endured the pain of tearing her anus, slowly stood up, and a flame ignited in her hand. You are welcome. Patton smiled calmly. Everyone will die sooner or later anyway. Since I have taken this job, I am always prepared to die. But you are still young. It is a great thing to have extraordinary power, but it is not necessarily a good thing for young people. If you can't control your own power, you will become its slave and become a monster who only knows how to abuse violence. You must see clearly what you want in your heart. Let power become a tool for you to realize your ambitions, and don't be enslaved by it. After Patton finished speaking, he leaned his head against the wall and looked up at the dark sky, like a martyr who was ready to die. Lazia sneered, and the flame in his hand turned into a fireball, which slowly rotated above his palm. That's it, let's go. With a wave of his hand, the fireball was thrown towards Patton. Lazia didn't even look at the result, and turned around directly. The Suzaku back pattern behind him flashed, and the black magic clothes instantly covered his whole body. Boom! The fireball blew a hole in the low wall next to Patton's face. I won't owe anyone anything. A pair of black wings suddenly spread out on his back. This is to thank you for your kindness in using the headless black arrow. Next time, if you protect the evildoers again, don't blame me for being rude. The wings flapped slowly, and Lazia's body gradually became airborne. Before I leave, I also want to ask you a question. People cannot be enslaved by their own power, so can they be enslaved by the thoughts of others? We are different types of people. Don't use your big principles to trick me. I am Bennu Bird Huiyo, and you mortals can't interfere. A gust of black wind rolled up, and Lazia flew away, disappearing into the night in a moment. Puff. Barton shook the dust off his head. This stinky boy, can't you throw the fireball farther? I was almost deafened. Lazia, who was in the night sky, suddenly sneezed, and the black clothes on his body suddenly disappeared. It's all over. I had something to do this morning, so it's even later. Thank you Kagula for the 500 reward. Thank you Zhang Da Chong for the reward, and thank you all for your support. Chapter 23, The Falling Item. After a big battle, Lazia's energy was almost exhausted. In order to leave the scene, he forcibly materialized a pair of black wings, and his natural energy was directly exhausted. As a result, not long after flying away from the abandoned factory, Mo Yi disappeared automatically. Without wings, he fell directly from midair. The feeling of falling from a high altitude was very uncomfortable, not to mention that Lazai was already covered with wounds. Fortunately, he was not flying very high. There was a residential building about 10 meters below him, and there were some iron railings around the rooftop. Lazai unfortunately landed outside the rooftop. Fortunately, he reached out and pulled the iron railing. While breaking the railing, he also slowed down a little. Then he fell on the outer stairs of the top floor with a bang, and then rolled down the stairs to the open-air balcony. Am I saved? Lying on the cold balcony, Lazai rolled his eyes and fainted. The collision woke up some nearby residents. Some people stretched their heads to look out the window, but found nothing, and more people chose not to look at it. There was a window next to the staircase where Lazai fell, and there was a heavy curtain inside. After Lazai fainted, the curtain was carefully opened a little, and then quickly closed, and then there was no movement. Lazai, who was injured on top of the injury, lay alone on the balcony, and stayed there until the next day when the sky brightened. When the outline of the city began to appear in the morning mist, the curtain inside the balcony was gently opened a crack, and a pair of eyes looked out through the crack. Lazai's mask flew off when she fell, and her face was exposed. Although it looked miserable with blood stains, at least her appearance could be seen clearly. OMG, after seeing Lazai's face clearly, the person in the curtain pulled the curtain open in a daze, revealing a young and beautiful face. If Lazai was awake, she would definitely recognize the identity of this person at a glance. Gwen Stacy. It was such a coincidence that Lazai fell on the balcony of Gwen's house. Because she didn't see Lazai clearly at night, and Gwen's father, Sheriff George, was called out to the police, Gwen didn't dare to care about the situation outside the window. It was not until dawn that Gwen, who had not slept well all night, secretly saw Lazai's face through the gap in the curtains. When Lazai woke up, she found herself lying in an unfamiliar room. The room was very tidy, and the most furnishings were books. It can be seen that the owner of this room must have good grades. There was a faint fragrance in the room, which Lazai was somewhat familiar with, but she couldn't remember smelling it there. While thinking about it, the door of the room was opened, and a girl with a thin waist and a perky buttocks walked in while backing out of the door, saying to the person outside the door, "Simon, go eat your breakfast. I don't like playing with my disobedient brother." "But sister, why can you take breakfast back to the room to eat, and I can't join you?" a little kid shouted and retorted. "Because this is my room." After the girl finished speaking, she closed the door with a bang. Turning back, the girl saw Lazai, who had woken up. "Hey, you're awake." Lazai shrugged. "It seems like I'm awake, but it feels like I'm dreaming. How could I be in your house? You don't remember?" "Okay." Gwen put down her breakfast and told Lazai about her mental journey last night. "You know, I was almost scared to death by you. You looked so scary at that time, but after I brought you in this morning, I found that you didn't have any scars on your body." "Where did all the blood come from?" Lazai looked down and found that all the wounds on her body had healed at some point. The arm that was strained when she fell last night and the thigh muscles that were hit when she fell were still a little painful, but they had almost recovered. But the natural energy in her body was empty. Gurgle. Her stomach started to growl, and Lazai stuffed all the breakfast that Gwen brought into her stomach without caring about her image. After breakfast, when she was thinking about what lies to make up to deceive Gwen, she heard Gwen say out of the blue, "Zion, do you have any secrets?" "Huh?" Lazai was dumbfounded. What are you?" "I'm not stupid." Gwen spread his hands. Lazai sighed. "Okay, you are a top student. You know everything. Don't worry." Gwen patted Lazai on the shoulder. "Don't worry, I won't ask your secrets. Everyone should have their own secrets. I'm not someone who likes to explore other people's privacy. But if you have anything to tell someone, you can tell me. I promise I will be a good listener." Gwen's generosity made Lazai a little uncomfortable. Shouldn't he force me to tell him what I did? Is he afraid that I would kill him to silence him? Until Lazai left through the window, Gwen didn't show any interest in his secrets. which made Lysias suddenly have a strong urge to tell everything he did. After Lysias left, George returned home, talked to his family for a few words, and then went directly to Gwen's room. There has been some unrest in the city lately. Hundreds of gang members were killed in the place I went to last night. It will be reported in the news today. You must go out less at night in the future. If you have any social events, notify me and I will pick you up. That's it, okay? No problem. Gwen nodded obediently. When George left the room, he suddenly frowned. Why is there a bloody smell in Gwen's room? I can't be mistaken for this smell. It can't be. Well, my daughter has grown up and is an adult. George shook his head and left. Gwen in the room inexplicably connected what George said to Lysias. There is so much blood on his body, but no wounds. Obviously, it is other people's blood. Then the hundreds of people who died couldn't be. It shouldn't be. Lysias is just a student. After Lysias left Gwen's house, he simply washed the blood in a public toilet, and then put on the clean clothes given by Gwen and returned to the orphanage. Today is the weekend, and there is no need to go to school. When they walked to the door, there was an Audi R8 parked on the roadside. The red and yellow body shape was grand and the color was flamboyant. Even a blind person could tell that the person who drove such a luxury car must be a show-off. When they entered the door, there was indeed a show-off sitting on the sofa, with a slicked back hair, a black suit, brown sunglasses, a sloppy sitting posture and an arrogant expression. He was obviously a playboy with an arrogant personality and chaotic style. Next to the show-off was a capable woman in a professional suit. When she saw Lysias come in, she stood up. "You're back, Joan," who was entertaining them, saw Lysias and greeted her with a smile. "Let me introduce you to you. This is Lysias, Clarice's favorite brother, and this is Miss Potts I told you about yesterday." In fact, without Joan's introduction, Lysias also knew the identities of these two people. She could see them on TV all day, but there were other people present, which made Lysias a little strange. Old Wang who dispensed medicine in Chinatown. Old Chinese medicine Dr. Wang Chu. Please support us. Thank you. Chapter 24, Sweeping Out. Lao Wang came to deliver herbs to Grandma Joan. After smiling and saying hello to Lysias, he sat in the corner and drank tea happily. Lysias' meeting with Tony Stark was not pleasant. As a genius born with a golden key, he inherited his father's business in his 20s and developed Stark Industries into an international top giant. The winner of life, Tony Stark, always had his eyes on the top of his head. Anyone, including the government officials who ruled the country, was no different from a pile of shit in his eyes. His sense of people did not come from the other party's identity, but from his mood. Today, he was obviously not in a good mood. Although in Tony's eyes at this time, Pepper was just his assistant, and at most helped him deal with the trivial matters after one night, similar to the role of pouring night incense in the rich family in ancient times. But as a person with a strong desire for control, even an assistant who pours night incense must serve him wholeheartedly and cannot delay work because of personal matters. So Tony was very unhappy about Pepper's inexplicable desire to adopt an orphan. As a result, he was very unhappy with the Star Child orphanage and everyone in it. He only had some respect for Grandma Joan. After meeting Lysias, the first thing Tony said was, "My dear Joseph, I don't think your decision is wise. Use your pitiful few brain cells to think about it. Is there any place that is more comfortable than the place where you grew up? It's not terrible for a 7-year-old child to have no correct values. Are you all also low in IQ? New environment and new friends will make children lack a sense of security, which will affect her growth. You are not taking responsibility for yourself and others." Lysias sat next to Joan, and waited until Tony finished speaking before looking up and asking, "Excuse me, Mr. Stark, are you going to adopt Clarice?" Tony snorted, "Of course not." Lysias nodded. "Then what the hell are you talking about?" Tony Stark exploded instantly. Since 1991, no one dared to talk to him like this. No, even if his parents were alive, they would not do this. "If you did this to irritate me, then congratulations, you succeeded." "So?" Lysias spread his hands. Tony Stark took out his light screen phone, pressed a few times on it, and then showed it to Lysias. "So, now this orphanage has been bought by me, including this building. As the owner of this orphanage, I declare that you, Lazai are expelled. Everyone was stunned by Tony Stark's swift and vindictive look, and Grandma Joan was so angry that she couldn't speak. Pepper Potts anxiously grabbed Tony Stark. "Mr. Stark, you can't do this. He's still a child. If you don't want to, I can just not adopt the child. Please take back your decision." Tony smiled. "I'm glad to hear that you've changed your mind, but I'm not doing this to target anyone. I just suddenly felt that doing good deeds is a great thing. So I bought this orphanage and want to turn it into a paradise for orphans. But there should only be angels in this paradise, not impolite ghosts." Turning to Lazai, Tony smiled as if he deserved a beating. "What do you think, Mr. Lazai? So you can call me by my name. I thought your titles of genius were all false names. Thank you for everything you have done for the orphanage." Lazai stood up after she finished speaking, ignoring Tony Stark's reaction, and walked directly to Joan. "Grandma, now you don't have to worry about the financial problems of the orphanage. With the help of this Mr. Shit, you can not only raise those brothers and sisters, but you may be able to rescue more children. However, you are old now. You don't have to do some things yourself. You can let your brothers and sisters take some responsibility. You should take good care of yourself." "Lazai, don't worry, as long as Grandma doesn't agree, no one can drive you out of here." Grandma Joan slapped the armrest of the chair, and it seemed that the whole orphanage was shaking. "As expected, she is worthy of being Mr. Lee's old lover. She is so domineering." Lazai held Joan's hand and comforted her. "Grandma, don't worry about me. I found an intern job in Osborne Group. The salary is not low. It is much more than what I earned as a part-time job before. I can support myself. Don't worry." After a lot of persuasion, Grandma Joan was finally appeased. Lazai went upstairs to pack up her things, and walked out of the orphanage with the holy clothes box on her back. The children in the orphanage didn't know what happened. Lazai lied to Clarice that she was going to live in the school, so it didn't cause much reaction. Tony Stark felt relieved all over. "This is the end of opposing yourself." Tony Stark drove away in a happy mood. He was going to the airport to take a private plane to Las Vegas. There was an awards ceremony called the Vertex Awards there in the evening. When driving past Lazai, Tony Stark stopped the car and whistled. "Mr. Joseph, the box you are carrying seems very heavy. Where are you going? Do you want me to give you a ride?" Lazai turned around and said, "Hey, Mr. Zodiac, I see that your forehead is black. I'm afraid you will have a bloody disaster. Do you want me to burn incense and pray for you?" "Humphrey, what nonsense!" The RH roared away, leaving Lazai with only a pair of taillights and countless car exhaust. Lazai shook her head. Before becoming Iron Man, Tony Stark was indeed a hateful guy, and a childish one. Although he was very unhappy with his attitude and behavior, the result was good. The orphanage was acquired by Stark Industries, and it would definitely not be short of money in the future. Even if it was for show, Stark Industries would run this orphanage well. Moreover, Pepper Potts gave up the idea of adopting Clarice, so the little girl didn't have to go to Los Angeles to suffer. If she stayed with Pepper, she would be implicated by Tony Stark to some extent. Even Lazai himself found a suitable reason to leave, and took away a series of dangers that might be caused by him in the future. It was really killing two birds with one stone. As for offending the future Iron Man, who cares? Anyway, he had already offended Hawkeye, so what if there was another one? Walking on the street with his luggage on his back, Lazai's most important thing at the moment was to find a place to settle down. No, to make money first. He was penniless now. When he left the orphanage, Grandma Joan wanted to give him some money, but he refused. A man has hands and feet. How could he starve to death? Lazai took out a newspaper from the trash can, sat on a chair by the roadside and read the job search page. The advertisement at the bottom caught his eye. Recruiting amateur wrestlers, playing for 3 minutes. You can get a reward of $3,000. Requirements: must have an optimistic personality. Well, this position is tailor-made for me. I just don't know if my opponent can remain optimistic. 2,333,333. Please give us your support. Thank you. Chapter 25 Death Mask. Wrestling has a history of more than 100 years in the United States. It is loved by the audience for its entertainment and drama, and there are many fans, Frankly speaking, American wrestling is not a real fight in the strict sense. Basically, there is a script in advance. The wrestlers are fighting on the stage with blood and blood, but they are just acting in a TV show to make the audience happy. So if you want to be a good wrestler, you must be a good actor. It doesn't matter whether you are good at fighting or not. The key is to be able to act well. Well, Dwayne Johnson and Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy, are both Hollywood tough guys who started out as professional wrestlers. For them, this is not even considered a crossover. Lizzie was studying the route with a newspaper when her cell phone suddenly rang. Lizzie looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Parker. "Hi, Peter. Good morning, Zion. What are your plans for today?" "I have almost finished designing the spider silk launcher. Now I am waiting for the tensile strength biological cable to arrive so that I can do a suitability test." Parker's excited voice came from the other side. Lizzie was a little embarrassed. Even if he knew the principle and materials, he couldn't make a spider silk launcher by himself. "That's good. The cable won't be here for a while. Go to 20 Road first and help me with something. Bring some money." Half an hour later, Lizzie met Parker at the New York City Library. Parker took out all the money in his pocket. "Here, about $1,500 US. This is all the money I earned from part-time jobs and New Year's money in these years." $1,500 US. According to the US dollar exchange rate in 2009, this is equivalent to more than 10,000 RMB. Who can easily take out 10,000 RMB for a high school student. "I didn't expect that Parker, a humble and pleasing guy, is actually a rich second generation." Patting Parker on the shoulder, Lizzie took him to the wrestling hall. "Let's go and make money." As soon as he entered the hall, Lizzie realized the popularity of wrestling. On the ring, two muscular men were fighting fiercely, and the audience around them were shouting the names of the wrestlers like crazy. Big Mac, Big Mac, Big Mac. Big Mac McGregor easily defeated an opponent whose muscles were almost as strong as his own, and was raising his hands to accept the cheers of the audience. The loser was lying on a stretcher and shouting. His acting was extremely exaggerated. McGregor has won 20 games in a row. If there is no accident, he will continue to win until the amount of money in the prize pool that he wins accumulates to an outrageous level. Only then will he lose to an evenly matched opponent because of physical exhaustion or other appropriate reasons. Wrestling is not just about watching two muscular men fighting. Betting on the outcome is the key. Most of the audience bet on McGregor to win, and they are cheering for the money. Of course, there are also people who want to make a fortune by surprise, and those who want to lose want to be their underwear. Whoever can fight Big Mac McGregor for 3 minutes on the field will get a $3,000 reward. Who else? The host stood on the stage to stimulate the atmosphere, and people who signed up for the challenge lined up on the side. The person who received the registration was a muscular black cow. He looked. Never mind. Black ladies all looked the same anyway. None of them looked good. After recording the information for Lizzie with disdain, the black cow looked at the registration form, shook his head and sighed. Death Mask. Hey, the name is not bad, but the brain is broken, so thin. Dare to challenge Big Mac. If you want to die, you might as well come to me. Lizzie, wearing a red devil mask, sneezed, and then found Parker outside the crowd. How is it? Did you find a place to bet? Parker made an okay gesture. Lizzie threw the holy cloth box to Parker, and went to the stage to wait. Half an hour later, one opponent after another was knocked down by McGregor, and he was about to usher in his 30th consecutive victory. Big Mac has defeated 29 people. Will he complete the feat of 30 consecutive victories? The host began to build momentum. Will the next opponent end his hegemony? Next, we invite Death Mask. With the exciting music, Death Mask Lizzie made a shocking appearance. After a brief moment of confusion, the audience burst into extremely enthusiastic screams. Arranging the weak and thin man to come up at this time, isn't it obvious that they want to give McGregor victory? Sure enough, the organizer also took a fancy to the gimmick of 30 consecutive victories, wanting to build a reputation for the wrestling gym and give benefits to the audience. The eyes of several people who had just pawned their underwear lit up instantly. They relied on this to turn the tables. After Lizzie came on the stage, The iron fences around the ring were lowered, closing the ring into a cage. Can death mask last for 3 minutes? How will McGregor show his strength to his new opponent? Audience friends, what are you waiting for? The game is about to start. In the betting area off the field, gamblers shouted frantically, "I want to bet on McGregor. That guy is a jerk at first glance. He will definitely not last for 3 minutes. I bet on McGregor to win. McGregor must win 30 games in a row, for sure." Everyone thought McGregor would win, and the odds kept falling. In the end, they even fell to 1 to 0.3. If you bet 100 yuan, you can only win 30 yuan if you win. On the other hand, the odds of Lazai winning went up all the way to 1 to 20, and no one was interested. I bet on death mask. Parker slapped all the money on the table, and immediately received a look of idiot. Parker casually put the holy cloth box on the ground, not caring about the eyes of these mortals. Bang! The holy cloth box directly smashed a hole in the wooden floor. On the field, as the betting was completed, the host had already brought the atmosphere to a boil. When the bell rang, the game officially began. "Boy, let's play for a while. Don't worry, I will be very gentle." McGregor, who was nearly 2 meters tall, had explosive muscles and arms thicker than Lazai's thighs, said with a grin. His smile was scarier than crying. Lazai shrugged, "Thank you, but unfortunately I'm in a hurry." As soon as the voice fell, McGregor's instinctive shadow flashed in front of his eyes, and then he lost consciousness. Plop! Less than 5 seconds after the game started, McGregor, who seemed to have an absolute advantage, fell down. With Lazai's current bare-handed strength of more than 400 kilograms and strange speed, McGregor was not even qualified to be an opponent. Many audience members were forced to hold back before they could finish their words. It was the host who was used to big scenes who reacted first and raised Lazai's hand. "The winner is Death Mask." Off the field, Parker had been waiting by the side after placing the bet, smiling as he watched Lazai solve the battle without suspense. "I bet all $1,500, with a 20 to 1 odds, and I can make $30,000, which I can use to buy materials to make Spider-Man and Benu's suits." Parker knocked on the table and said with a smile, "The winner. Give me the money." "Thank you, book friend 201612290859454558 for the reward. Thank you all for your support." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.